Is there a serial killer in Austin? People from across the country are asking that question after 4 bodies have been found in Lady Bird Lake during the last 2 months, even more over the last decade. Police say there is no serial killer and they don't suspect foul play. But internet sleuths are hard at work.
Well, a body was pulled out of Lady Bird Lake this morning. Austin police say homicide detectives are investigating, but the case is not being called a homicide.
Austin police have confirmed there has been no foul play in all of the cases, but residents say they believe there's a connection and there could be a suspect.
This can't be a coincidence. I was born and raised here in Austin. I've spent my whole life here, and it's never been an issue like this until the last few years.
This is not the first time a body has been found in the lake. Last year, there were multiple bodies found, renewing fears of a serial killer.
Austin police are investigating after a man's body was found in Lady Bird Lake over the weekend.
Another grim discovery in Lady Bird Lake Saturday morning.
Multiple individuals had called 911 reporting that a subject appeared to be deceased and was in the water on this end of the lake.
Jason John's body was found at Lady Bird Lake in February, days after he disappeared heading home from Rainy Street.
Austin police this morning find the body of a missing college student in Lady Bird Lake. Elena Valle vanished from the St. Edward's University campus in South Austin back on February the 6th.
Christian Pugh was reported missing around 1:30 Sunday morning after hitting up Rainy Street. His flyers fill the area as the hours he was last seen continued to grow.
5 bodies pulled from Lady Bird Lake in just 6 months.
They need to get to the bottom of it. I think there is foul play. People aren't just falling into the lake. I've heard different things. I've heard, it's drunk people, but I don't think that it can't be the case for all of these people.
This is odd, and not only the fact that there would be so many accidents in an area that previously had none, but also the fact that no one noticed.
I just think it's a little suspicious or kind of scary a little bit, I guess.
I do feel like the frequency of these events is increasing.
Do not go anywhere alone. Obviously that's what's been happening. All male, all alone, gone.
In 2023, all of the bodies found in the lake were men.
We trust the city to get to the bottom of things, and sometimes maybe they're taking the easy way out and saying it's not foul play because that's the easiest answer for them, but I think there's more to it.
Sergeant Lee Nouse with APD says the incidents cannot be tied together.
At this time, this is not being investigated as a homicide.
Our initial information doesn't show anything suspicious.
Police are not considering this a criminal investigation.
John's mother says she doesn't believe her son's death was accidental.
Every person who goes into Lady Bird Lake, you cannot just say it's accidental drowning. There's something behind. It's very clear. You don't need to be an APD or an FBI to figure this out based on all these criteria, the age of the men missing, the timing and the place. It's just common sense. It's time for the city to wake up. It's time for the city to do something.
Rumors of a serial killer in Austin have been swirling for years. So something that's going to shock everybody in today's video is that I was with one of the victims of this serial killer or group of killers on the night that they went missing. This is a personal story that I have, and this is why I'm so invested in this investigation, because I know what happened, and I know that what the police are saying happened isn't true. Right now, the hurricane has taken out Courtney and I's power for a full week now. We have been without power for a week. I came back to our house to record this. It is about 94 degrees in here if you see me sweating, but I felt like I had to come back to really explain this to you guys. So, Austin, Texas, if you don't know, is an amazing city. I moved to Austin personally in 2015 to attend film school at the University of Texas at Austin. I ended up dropping out of film school when the channel started taking off, and I'm so thankful to everybody for what they've done for me. But Courtney and I lived in Austin that entire time. Austin is where we fell in love. Austin is where I got married. Austin has a very special place in my heart. I made so many amazing friends, just made so many memories in Austin, and I'm sure you guys who have watched the channel for a while will remember that whole period of my life when I lived in Austin. But something's happening in that city. Something that the police will not acknowledge is happening. Something that is very dark and malicious and malevolent, and something that is shocking. This documentary is really going to blow your minds. But yeah, I'm not going to spare any time getting into it. Let's just dive right in. And we'll get to my personal story in a few minutes. So if you don't know how Austin is laid out, there's a huge, very tightly compacted city downtown area with 6th Street, the big party street, tons of restaurants and food. City Hall's down there, the state capitol is down there. And then intersecting downtown and I don't know what you would call really the other side of downtown for people that aren't there, but Austinites, you know, obviously, you know, Congress and going down on the road there. That waterway is Lady Bird Lake. Now, Lady Bird Lake, which is located in the heart of Austin, Texas, is a man-made body of water. This body of water was formed when a dam was built, and for years, this area around Lady Bird Lake, which it's confusing because it's called a lake and it's really not a lake, it's more like a river. But that area used to be called Town Lake, and it was renamed Lady Bird Lake in 2007 after Lady Bird Johnson, Lyndon B. Johnson's wife, who obviously holds a special place in Texans' hearts. Back in the day, the shoreline of Lady Bird Lake was described as being an eyesore. It was filthy, there was trash everywhere, shrubs. It was not a place that people really wanted to visit. And Claudia Lady Bird Johnson decided that she would make making Town Lake beautiful one of her personal priorities. So she supported a major cleanup, and she helped to establish hiking trails, biking trails all around the lake. And I can tell you, just having lived in Austin, I lived in downtown, we were on Lady Bird Lake all the time. There's so much that you can go do there. You can go paddle boarding, you can go kayaking. I lost my iPhone in the river one time. Paddleboarding, that's a whole different story. There's a ton of outdoor stuff to go do, especially the hiking and biking. When Courtney and I lived downtown, we would hike and walk that trail almost every day, just taking our dog on a walk. So it is a very well-used area. There are hundreds of thousands of people that use Lady Bird Lake every year. I'd argue to say millions. But interestingly, people haven't been allowed to swim in Lady Bird Lake since 1964. If I could find it, I'm going to insert a video right now from me in college where I was actually jumping off of a bridge into Lady Bird Lake, which is extremely dangerous. And I have been swimming in there in the past when I fell off of my paddleboard, but it's pretty strictly enforced. Nobody is allowed to swim in those waters. Now, people said initially that that was because of runoff from nearby chemical plants from the city, leftover toxic materials in the water from the dam that was built. There's an abandoned power plant right nearby that people have said might have to do with it. But in reality, it's really because it's deadly. You see, in the 1960s, a family went down to Lady Bird Lake on Mother's Day. They were going to enjoy a swim. It was a mother, her children, her husband, their father. They were all down there to have a great time, but unfortunately, 2 of the sisters, 8 and 11 years old, drowned in the lake. That was a very tragic event. I was actually able to track down some newspaper reports about that happening. But these drownings continued in Austin. In the following couple of months, there were 2 additional victims that were claimed by Lady Bird Lake. And from that point forward, they shut down the swimming. Later on, they declared that you can't use motorized boats on the lake for recreational use. They also banned fishing, and people in Austin kind of jokingly referred to it as a no fun zone. No swimming, no fishing, no boating. You can kayak and you can paddleboard, but really you have to be very careful. And yes, there have been tons of accidents in Lady Bird Lake. When I was living in Austin, I remember when a guy was fleeing the police and he crashed over the bridge into the water. Stuff like that happens, you know, because it's right in the center of a huge city. But we're not talking about those deaths today. We're not talking about random accidents or terrible misfortunes. What we're talking about today is a crime spree that has not only not been acknowledged by the Austin Police Department, but has been ignored. Victims' families that have been ignored. We're going to be talking to the families of victims today in this episode. And if you don't think that there's a serial killer or at least a group of individuals that are carrying out these killings in Austin by the end of this video, I don't know what to tell you. So yeah, now you get the vibe. Lady Bird Lake is kind of dangerous. It's beautiful. It's serene. It's in the middle of Austin. People are on the water all the time. You can even see in my drone shots, I got people paddleboarding and canoeing. It's a very, very popular place to go relax, especially in the summertime months in Austin. But it's the drownings of these men that have caught people's attention. Today's documentary was brought to you by Babel. Courtney, Connor, and I are planning on going international soon, and obviously when we visit a foreign country, we want to know a little bit of the language so that we can keep up with the locals. That's why recently I decided to download Babel and start a new journey learning a brand new language. You can learn a brand new language from the comfort of your phone using the Babel app. And you can learn a brand new language in just 3 weeks. Babel prepares you for situations where you're gonna have to use a new language in a real life situation. Like, for example, ordering food at a restaurant in a foreign country, or just becoming closer with a friend that doesn't speak your language. Babel can help you through it all. In fact, the lessons on Babel are actually designed and created by real language speakers. So you'll learn practical, real-world conversations in no time. And with a 20-day money-back guarantee, if you don't learn something by using Babel for those 20 days, you can get everything you put into it back, sent right to your account, and move on. But Babel is a product and a service that Courtney and I love. We have endorsed them before on our podcast. I have been using them to prepare for this trip. I don't want to spoil what the trip is yet, but if you want to start a journey learning a new language today, definitely download Babel. So if you want to start learning a new language today, download Babel and get 60% off on your subscription. Just use the link in the description of this video or in the pinned comment, and you can get 60% off your subscription. Start learning a new language today. All this started in April of 2008. When the body of a missing man was found in Lady Bird Lake. His name was 55-year-old Rahad Hamad, and Rahad was born in Lebanon and eventually immigrated into the United States. Now, interestingly, Rahad lived in Austin for 30 years before he died, so he was a bona fide Austinite. Safe to say that he had been to Lady Bird Lake many times. And he was a highly intelligent man. He had business degrees, he taught keyboarding to middle school students, and everybody that knew Rahad said that he was patient, kind, and just a very generous, loving man. Rahad also was very outspoken on international politics. He volunteered to raise money for Palestine back in his time. And yeah, he was very outspoken about US policy in the Middle East. Now, interestingly, in February of 2008, Rahad's home was raided by the FBI. I couldn't find exactly what the reasoning was behind that, but it was stated that there were 40 boxes of paperwork removed from Rahad's home. And less than 2 months later, Rahad was reported missing on April 13th, 2008. He had gone to visit the pharmacy and he just failed to come home. Now, the following day is when Rahad's body was recovered in Lady Bird Lake, but there was something immediately wrong with what this person had found. So a passerby who was walking by Lady Bird Lake actually found Rahad's floating body, and she would later say that when she saw him, his hands and legs were bound and that there was duct tape over both his eyes and his mouth. And other people who watched Rahad's body being pulled from the water would eventually say the same thing, that they saw this duct tape, that his hands and his feet were bound together, obviously showing that he didn't do this himself, right? Well, you're wrong. The Austin Police Department declared that to have been a Rahad took his own life. Somehow they said that he had bound his hands and his feet and everything together and duct taped his own eyes and mouth before throwing himself into the water. Very, very strange. There were also people who reported seeing his body, like the people who prepared his body for his death rites, that said that there were bruises and other injuries all over his body. The guy actually said that it looked like Rahad had been attacked by an animal. He was so badly injured. And yet, those injuries were never really noted or acknowledged by the authorities. It seems like they just wanted to call it and move on. Even though his hands and feet were tied together, his mouth and face, there was duct tape everywhere. He had injuries all over his body. He had just been raided by the FBI 2 months prior. By the way, nothing ever came of that. The FBI never brought any charges against him, and they have never publicly stated why they raided his home. And yeah, so that was back in 2008. This story goes all the way up to the present day. You see, on Saturday, October 16th, 2012, another body was found in Lady Bird Lake. This guy was 21-year-old Cole Christensen, a native of Anchorage, Alaska. Now, Cole was a smart guy. He was a former student of the University of Alaska. People absolutely loved him. His friends had only great things to say about him. And interestingly enough, Cole was known by his friends and family to be somebody who loved activities on the water. He loved jet skiing. He loved wakeboarding. He just loved everything and anything water related. People knew him as a very talented guy who could maneuver on water with ease. So it was shocking when his body was found floating in Austin's Lady Bird Lake. Now, police immediately ruled Cole's death as non-suspicious. They never investigated this as a homicide. And I couldn't find any details on why they never looked into this or exactly how he had died. So this is going to be a pattern that you see begin to emerge. Because just a few years later, in February of 2014, a 20-year-old student from the local university, St. Edward's, was found once again floating in Lady Bird Lake. This time, it was Alano Valle. He was a 20-year-old student at St. Edward's, and all of his friends described him as just the best guy, like somebody who wouldn't hurt a fly, someone who studied hard for his tests, who passed his classes with flying colors. He was always down to help people. And interestingly, there haven't been that many details that have been released when it comes to Alano Valle. But he disappeared, then 10 days later he was found once again in Lady Bird Lake. And the Austin Police Department has never classified that as anything more than either an accidental death or a and I couldn't track down exactly what they said happened to him. And again that year, October of 2014, another man would be found in Lady Bird Lake. This time it was Aaron David Rublik, who moved to Austin in 2011. Now, Aaron had been hanging out drinking with his friends on Thursday night before he eventually caught a cab and wanted to return home from Rainy Street, where he and his friends had been drinking. You're gonna see Rainy Street pop up throughout this video. Rainy Street is a bar district in Austin. It is a very, very popular area. They kind of shut down the street so that thousands of people every weekend can go out drinking and partying. This is where a lot of the people have been going missing. There are theories that people are being drugged on Rainy Street. There's no concrete proof, but you're going to see this come up time and time again. So back to David Rublik, who was found in October of 2014 in Lady Bird Lake. Now, he disappeared around 2 a.m. on Friday morning, and a day and a half later, he was found by fishermen who were on Lady Bird Lake. Police said that there was no sign of trauma on David's body, and at the time, they said once again, it was another accidental drowning, just another tragic accident. But when 22-year-old Julio Santos III went missing and was found in Lady Bird Lake, that's when people started to grow suspicious. So Julio was known as a very friendly, kind, loving individual, and his body was recovered from Lady Bird Lake on June 7th, 2015. Now, they did a toxicology report on Julio, and they found that he had been drinking before his death, but they found no drugs in his system. He was found with all of his clothes on, except his belt was missing. And just like all the other victims before him, Julio's death was ruled as an accidental drowning. You'll see this many times. Austin police find these bodies and they immediately, right afterwards, say that it was an accident and it was nothing more than an accident. Julio Santos' death, just like everyone else's, has never been explained.
In 2015, 22-year-old Julio Santos III was home in Austin for a week after graduating before he was set to start a new job in Seattle.
He was just a great kid, just an amazing guy.
But his life was cut short. While his death certificate says drowning, his sister, Melanie Raymond, doesn't agree.
I think he was drugged. I think he was overserved. I think he was lured over there.
She says any sight of the lake can be triggering.
I picture him, in the river. I picture somebody hurting him and he's just left.
At Thursday's city council meeting, family members of others who disappeared or were found dead in the lake called for more safety measures.
I think they're connected. They're too much the same to be a coincidence.
The city says at this point, there's no evidence of foul play in any of these cases.
It's like, APD's reading from a script, and it's the exact same things, and if they were different, why would they be saying the exact same things? So yes, I think they're all connected.
City Council passed a resolution calling on the city manager to come up with a safety plan, including exploring the capacity to have park rangers patrol and EMS stationed on the trailhead.
If they are adopting resolutions to pacify, that's not enough. If they're going to adopt a resolution and take 10 years to do it, that's not enough. So far, all we've received are empty promises.
The city manager is also tasked with looking into halo cameras for the area and working with bars to prevent over-serving alcohol.
We should be able to have fun and not have to worry about, our loved ones being found in the river and being told, oh, they just drank too much.
Last week, the city announced patrols. There are already temporary lights and fencing, and a permanent infrastructure plan is in the works. 8 years after losing her brother, Raymond says this time she hopes the momentum keeps going.
I think it is different. This seems to be bigger. There's a lot more attention. I hope it won't fizzle out. Again, I hope it doesn't.
Then they found the body of 35-year-old Fernando Domingo Ortiz. His death has yet to be explained. And after that, the body of 37-year-old Luis Ramirez. Luis was born in Texas. He had moved to Austin after high school, once again had attended St. Edward's University. He was a very smart guy. He had a double degree in psychology and political science. His passion was music. He really loved helping people. Friends of his said that he would give anyone the shirt off of his back. But once again, he disappeared and was found floating dead in Lady Bird Lake. But once again, we still don't know anything really about what happened to him. He was found in the lake. They say it's probably an accident. There's no real finite answer here. And we get into 2018 at this point. And this is where things just exponentially explode and where my connection comes in. October 6, 2018, 25-year-old Christopher White goes missing in Austin. At the time that Christopher went missing, he was in town to attend the Austin City Limits Music Festival. I've been to ACL many times. It's very, very crowded. It's very hot. People get dehydrated all the time. But interestingly, after returning home from their night at the music festival, Christopher told his friends that he wanted to go check the water out outside of their rental property. He went without his shoes, his wallet, or his phone. This was very late at night in the pitch black. Later on, his body was found in the Colorado River, close to the rental property where his friends and him had been staying. And his toxicology report showed that there were a number of drugs in his system, along with alcohol. And now we get to Martin. Now, I actually sat down with Martin's brother, Mitchell, to discuss what he thinks happened to his brother. All these years later, 6 years later, authorities still are going with the thought and the theory that Martin accidentally drowned. His brother, his blood brother, Mitchell, does not think so. And there's no one better to explain exactly what happened than Mitchell himself.
Yeah, buddy. So my name's Martin Gutierrez. I live here in Austin. I've been here since 2006. My brother Martin was one of the victims off of Rainy Street. November 19th, 2018 is when he went missing. He used to come visit me all the time. He went to Texas Tech and all that. When he graduated, he actually moved in with me and my now wife. Would go out all the time. He loved Austin. He's such a happy person. We'd go to the gym every single day. It was like 6-7 days a week. We were the most boring, consistent people in the world, but we were happy. One night, we were out and about with dinner with my, wife and her family and everything. And I had to work the next day. It was a Sunday, and he went out with a few friends to go watch some football out on Rainy Street. He met them at one bar, and then he didn't get any drinks or anything. And then he went to Luster Pearl, was the next bar they went to, and he had, according to his tab, and Len got him one drink, and he bought one drink. That was it. By the time he got to Alibi, which was next door, he couldn't even walk. I looked at the footage. The manager was nice enough to let me know, let me and my family see the footage from Alibi. And I mean, he was like, kind of leaning off, and he was just acting different, like very odd behavior. I've drank with my brother, for years and years, and I know his mannerisms. I know when something, and what I saw was not him. And then you see the footage where he goes to the back, like towards the restrooms. So everyone was on the inside portion of it. Well, there's an outside like deck area, and you can actually go and get out the bar that way. And that's where he went. So none of the buddies saw him, when he left. And what I saw, he was like skipping, he's like a buff kid, like he was a power lifter, and he was like skipping out of the bar. I was like, what the hell is that, you know? Anyways, and then he made his way down towards Rainy Street near the Craft Pride bar, which was on the end, like on this like circle area, that little roundabout. And you see him just kind of looking at his phone, you know, and then going across. And then, but he's just not himself. We were able to get some footage at the Towers of Town Lake, which is the last footage I have of my brother. And he's walking, and there's this like split where you go either in front of the convenience store or you go in this little like cul-de-sac. There's like nothing there, and it's dark as can be. We looked at, I mean, the cops did back and forth, and we didn't see anything that looked like Martin going in front of that convenience store. So for some reason, I have no idea why, he had to have gone in this area. And we always took Ubers everywhere. We were very consistent with it, like, you know, but Martin was very naive. He was very kind, you know, whereas if someone said, oh, hey, I have a flat tire, can you help me? He would have been there in a heartbeat, you know, or someone screams for help, he's going to help. Like, ask questions later, help someone. And then that was the last I ever got. And then I woke up the next day, went to work. I worked 6:30 to 2:30, Monday through Friday. I had like the best job back then. And I'd always wait for him. I'd get our pre-workouts and everything ready. And at 5 o'clock, he didn't show up. I was like, hey, dude, like, where you at? You know, called him up, nothing. I called his work and he didn't show up for work. This kid never missed a day of work in his life, ever. He was very consistent. He was dependable. And so something was off. I called my buddy. He's like, dude, I texted him. I was like, where you at, man? Like, you left the bar, you know, this and that. And I knew something was off immediately. Like I said, we were a victim of routine. We never broke away or steered from it. Then the search began. The next day, we were calling around. We were, you know, calling his girlfriend, all these things, like trying to piece together. Some buddies went to Rainy Street asking questions, all this. The next day, I went to Seton facilities. I went to St. David's facilities trying to find a John Doe or something that matched his description or anything like that. Any new admissions, traumas, anything, and nothing. So we got back, we put up a post on Instagram and Facebook, and it just blew up. And we had a news crew from like KXAN, Spectrum, Fox, all that. They were here like within hours. And so we were really able to get the word out to, you know, start this search. You know, the APD got involved and everything, the detectives, all that. And we started, you know, a whole process, and we were searching, and we searched for a week.
It's been almost 3 days, and Martin Gutierrez is still missing. His friends and family searched for him all day today, but nothing turned up. They are not giving up, though. KVU's Patrick Perez is live on Rainy Street near downtown Austin, where they've put up posters.
Well, Mike, this is a poster Martin's friends and family have placed throughout Rainy Street and the surrounding area. They're hoping that someone will recognize him from that picture and know where he is. Now, throughout the day, search crews have been in the air, on the water, and on the ground looking for Martin. His friends and family were out there too, checking places he may have wandered off to in the dark. Many of them drove at least 5 hours just to help search for him. Martin's friends last saw him early Monday morning at the Alibi on Rainy Street. He tried to find a ride home, but he never made it. Nearly 72 hours later, his family hopes he'll turn up soon.
I'm hoping he's not in the water that had drowned. I'm hoping someone didn't hurt him and he's down somewhere and he can't do anything, or someone took him. I just don't want to think that he's behind a dumpster somewhere.
At a press conference earlier today, a detective said they don't suspect foul play, but an APD spokesperson later told me they haven't ruled it out just yet. Martin's family is offering a $5,000 reward to anyone who has any information about where he may be. They'll also be here tomorrow morning, bright and early, working on Thanksgiving to find him. We're live in downtown Austin tonight. I'm Patrick Perez, KVU News.
They actually had the Travis County Search and Rescue go out with their helicopters and look around, and they told us that he was not in the water. They were adamant that he wasn't there, and so I was ecstatic. I was like, oh my God, dang it. Like, that was my biggest fear. He was going to be in the water. And I remember telling my mom, like, he's got to be somewhere. Like, we got him, Mom. Like, you know, he's not in the water. You know, let's focus our searches elsewhere. Every day we'd meet up at the top of Rainy Street, and people would go all over the place to search around, put flyers up, whatever we could. The APD, man, they had 2 dumbass police officers that were actually going to local areas and asking for the wrong date. Like, I had their employees call me to tell me this because they refused to listen. And they were like, the kid went missing Sunday night, Monday morning. No, they're like, we want Monday, we want this and that. And I was just livid. Like, you know, this is their job. Get it right. And my brother isn't just a nobody. He's not a number. He's a human being, just like everyone else, you know. And We just had so many inconsistencies with the APD, and it was tough, man. We had search, and then the morning of November 26th, about 5 a.m., I get a text saying, "I have your brother. If you tell anything to the APD, I'll cut his throat and I'll send him to you piece by piece." I was terrified. Like, just, I remember waking Whitney up. I was like, oh my God, he's alive, we got him. You know, I woke up my mom. I was like, we got him. Like, I was like, I'll do whatever you want. They were like, we know where you live. We have your phone number, all this stuff. I want you to drive to this area and I'm going to call you right back. And they were texting me and all this. And I was like, okay, whatever you want. And I looked at my wife and I looked at my mom and I gave them a hug and a kiss. And I said, if I don't come back, I will love you forever. But I will bring back Martin. You have my word. No matter what, he's coming back with me. And, man, I'm sorry, dude.
No, it's okay, man. This is tough.
And I drove around. They were like, send 500 here to this account. We have someone in the HEB with you watching you right now. I drove around, man, all over Austin. I gave my wife my location. She was seeing me drive all over Austin. She was freaking the hell out. And I had a meeting with the detectives at 10 a.m. that morning. I had this whole template set up, man, of everything I was going to drill them on, everything they mismanaged, all the information that they should have gotten and all this stuff. And when I showed up to that interview, I told those guys, like, I have to go to this or else they're going to suspect. They were like, don't say anything. We have someone going there to where we have them stored. I'm going to send you a photo of them right now. And so I was like, okay, like whatever you want, man. And so I showed up to that interview with my wife and a buddy of mine who worked for the Travis County Sheriff's Department. I was just numb, man. Like I couldn't focus. I couldn't, all I could picture was just my brother there, because they told me, they were like, in the condition he's in, you're going to have to take him to a hospital as soon as we drop him off to you. And I mean, I'm just picturing my little brother, man, who's like the greatest person in the world, just, in that situation. And the police got a call 5 minutes before I showed up, and they said they found a body on Rainy Street.
Austin police homicide detectives say the body pulled from Lady Bird Lake yesterday is Martin Gutierrez, the man who went missing after a night out on Rainy Street.
And after more than a week of searching, loved ones are now mourning the 25-year-old. KXAN's Alyssa Gord is live from Rainy Street with the latest.
Sydney and Tom, you can actually still see some of those missing flyers with Martin's face on them here on Rainy Street. We heard it from his family members first. A team of around 30 law enforcement actually searched in the very area where Martin was later found. Last Wednesday, they deployed boats and helicopters. Austin police say they had plans to do so again on Monday when his body was discovered. Martin's family and friends have spent the past week combing nearby areas for him. In fact, they searched for him along the trail right next to where Martin's body was eventually spotted. His brother Mitchell had become something of a spokesperson for the search. You can hear the worry in his voice as he talked to us on the trail last week.
He's just a good kid, and if he was to come up to you, you'd fall for him in a second. His personality swallows you.
Loved ones still don't understand why he disappeared. They say Martin was captured on surveillance video, behaving strangely and seeming intoxicated at the Alibi Bar on Rainy Street just before he disappeared. But the bar said he wasn't served any alcohol there, and his family says he only purchased one drink at the previous bar. But the sadness of losing him weighs heavier than any unanswered question.
Yesterday, an APD detective told us that they hadn't issued any warrants because detectives do not believe that a crime was committed.
They found him, in Lady Bird Lake, face down. They were just scammers, man. They just wanted money out of me, and they got so much money out of me, man, by using my brother missing. There's a lot of fucking sick people out there, man. APD didn't do anything about it. It was just scammers, man. I had all this hope that my brother was going to be alive, man, and it was just swiped, and people scamming us, scamming my mom, my family. It's some sick people, man. So they did the whole thing. The autopsy said he had bugs in his body and all that stuff, man. He'd been in the water a while. The capillaries released in the body after about 6-7 days, and then he floated. And so I anticipate he was there the whole time.
Just a little more than a week since Martin Gutierrez's family laid him to rest, his loved ones gathered tonight to pay tribute to him. Gutierrez disappeared last month after a night of fun on Rainy Street. A week later, crews pulled his body from Lady Bird Lake, just about a mile from where his friends had last seen him. KVU's Leslie Adamy attended this evening's memorial and joins us now. Leslie?
Well, Patrick, tonight's memorial also in a very somber place that was near where Martin was found. And although a very sad gathering for his friends and family, it was also a time to just remember who Martin was. And that was a brother, a son, and a great friend.
Martin had a lot of family and friends here. Friends that turned into family, and it shows.
Typically, this hike and bike trail, a place to run and even play. But on Sunday night, took a different tone, falling silent.
He made you a better person in all aspects. He took your best characteristic and made it better.
Family and friends holding tightly to one another, mourning the loss of the son, brother, and friend Martin Gutierrez was, but also smiling at the happy memories he left behind.
The sweetest, funniest, movie quoting dork I've ever known.
Martin was last seen in the early morning hours of November 19th on Rainy Street.
This isn't a situation that anyone would wish on their worst enemy. It was tragic, out of nowhere, unexpected.
And when he never returned home that night, family and friends immediately launched a tireless search, spreading from Austin to his West Texas roots and even out of state. But on November 26th, crews pulled the missing 25-year-old's body from the waters of Lady Bird Lake. While their search may have come to an end, the family still has this message for others.
Be safe, don't go into those dark areas, make sure that if there's any way we can improve surveillance or lighting in those areas, something that can be done so that no other family or other brother has to deal with this ever again.
And even with Martin now gone, Gutierrez says he'll always look up to his little brother.
Just to be humble, be kind, and see the best in everybody.
And I mean, of course, my brother wasn't going to be swimming in the middle of Lady Bird Lake in fucking November, but he was a great swimmer. He was all this other stuff. But once again, I agree with Reagan on the inconsistencies with this autopsy, because my brother had a large contusion on the back of his head. Dead people don't bleed. The cops kept saying, well, maybe he fell off the bridge, he hit his head, he drowned. Well, if that would have happened, he would have never developed a bruise, because you have to be alive for blood to go to that area, create that bruise on the back of your head. He had a large contusion on the occipital portion of his head, right back here, and his eyes. So when they found him face down in Lady Bird Lake, he was, but in the autopsy, his eyes were opaque, which means the sun hit his eyes, or oxygen or something. He was never face down the whole time. They should have been clear if he was face down the whole time, and they were not. He didn't have anything in his system as far as a toxin. Me and him don't do drugs. It was just alcohol. The agents that people use nowadays are just so different. You got untraceable stuff, and they did a basic tox panel on him. I hear that they're finally getting their shit together and using tests now to check for rufalin finally. Which is, finally, they're listening. Jason John went missing last year. I saw the number. I got out of a 12-hour shift at the hospital, man. Grabbed my jacket, a beanie, and went and searched for John, man. Jason for, a few hours, and I put on Instagram, if anyone wants to help, I'll be around here in this area, call me, if you want to search. I called the number that I saw, and by the next day I was sitting in a room with his family and his closest friends, telling them everything that I went through with Martin, with the police, what to look for, what questions to ask, all the things I could do to help. When Martin died, my family and I were a mess. My sisters, my brothers, we were all, and my mom, we were a mess. Jason's family was so different because they were able to push that pain aside, and they came at the city immediately. And I've had some years to kind of, cope a little bit. And so I hopped on that train and I went to city council meetings with them. I met with city councilman Zoe, I met with the Austin Parks and Rec Department, got to talk in front of the chief of police and all this stuff. I'm like, you didn't do this, you didn't do that. Multiple people are dying, and it's going to continue, and it's going to continue. And then what was it, 2 weeks later, Jonathan Honey, I think he went missing. And just, to have these people just look at you in the eye, man, just like, oh, well, yeah, we should have done that. You know, it's heartbreaking, man, because, you know, I know what my family went through, and I'm just seeing another family go through it, and another, and another, and another. And then finally, we made enough noise, and we were told to make noise, and we did all over Instagram and Facebook and Twitter, and, you know, whatever we had to, radio stations, news interviews, whatever I had to do. If I had an opportunity to bring up something about Rainy Street or my brother, I hopped on it. Obviously, what's up? Appreciate your time. We made enough noise to where people were talking about a serial killer, like the Rainy Street Ripper and all this other stuff. And, you know, they were like, do you think there's a serial killer out here? You know, and in my heart, I know that there's something going on. You can't ignore the obvious telltale signs of all male, all, you know, dark features, you know, all off of Rainy Street, all these, you know, ruled as accidental. Like, you just can't ignore this, man. Like, it's ridiculous. Do I personally think so? I think there's maybe someone or a group of someones who are coordinating this, but you know, city just continues to, you know, deny. That's what they do, right? They got to protect their city, and whatever money is coming in. Like when South by Southwest was coming into town, they built up a fence real quick, you know, because all this was hot. They're like, oh, look, we're doing something, you know, try to cover their ass. I mean, I was happy they were doing something. You know, it was nice to actually scream for something and actually someone hear and listen and do something. And they finally started putting up lights, and I think they have cameras out there. I think they got one, maybe two, but they finally did it, man. You know, but they still got a ways to go, and the APD really needs to pull their head out of their asses and just figure out what's going on. And I get it. Like, if you have an open case or whatever, you can't give any details, or you know, if you're really searching for somebody, you don't want to give away your position or whatever. But I mean, they're closing all of our cases, man. As soon as they get that autopsy, they rule it as accidental. They closed my brother's case as fast as they could, man. They, you know, it was tough, man. Like, we had all these questions, unanswered questions that will never be answered. You know, the footage I really wanted to see was from Luster Pearl. They wouldn't give us anything. They said their manager was out of town for the holiday. He comes in, they finally give the footage to the police. They gave the wrong date and deleted what we needed. I never got to see what happened to my brother in that bar. There was no repercussions for that, nothing. They got away with whatever they were doing, whatever transpired in that bar that night. They deleted something.
What was the authorities? What did they actually claim they believed happened to your brother? Like, what's the explanation?
The main explanation that they had given to us was that he was maybe, you know, going close to the water or went off the bridge and smacked his head and drowned, is what they were saying. That was their assumption. That's what I was told. And on the autopsy, he did have water in his lungs. He did. But the other things, you know, the contusion on the back of his head, his eyes, you know, all this stuff. And I mean, I don't claim to be like the best autopsy reader ever. You know, I've been a nurse practitioner. I've been in healthcare 16 years now. I've been a nurse practitioner for over half of that now. You know, I work in a level 2 trauma. I see stuff all the time. I don't know, man. I know bullshit when I see it, but nobody listened. And then after a certain amount of, I think it's like maybe a year or two, they get rid of it. Like it's gone, you know, like you can't reopen stuff. Like they get, I guess, delete files or whatever, but we weren't able to like pull up his autopsy stuff. I mean, I still have a copy of his autopsy. I saved that shit and I've looked through that I don't know how many times, you know, just back and forth, and you just do what you can.
Just real quick, they didn't note the stuff on the back of his head in the autopsy report?
They did.
Then they just acknowledged it as a fall. Wow. Mm-hmm. So what do you think happened? Like, what, after researching all this, what's the possibility?
So I think you know, someone may have posed to be an Uber or like, hey, I just finished a ride, like I'll give you a ride here or something. But I think that someone got him to go out there and they hurt him. They hit him on the back of the head. Like I said, Martin was a big kid, man, so he was not going to be easy to take down. And so I mean, he was already kind of acting weird anyway, so I'm like, all right, like that's odd. But then boom, like I think someone hit him on the back of the head and put him in the water eventually. Now, I don't know when they did it because there had to be enough time for his eyes to be affected like that. So I don't know the time period for that. change to occur, but had to be long enough for a bruise to come up and for them to catch it on the autopsy. So I think someone hurt my brother, put him in the water, and then 6 days later, or 7 days, the 26th, we found him.
Would your opinion be that a lot of these cases are related to each other?
I do think that in some form or manner that they are related. Yeah.
And what's your personal reasoning behind that?
Oh, like I said, all the similar characteristics that each person had, like all male, all off the Rainy Street or somewhere very close to it, all up into the water or near it. Like, you just can't ignore the signs that, they're doing the exact same thing with each person that goes missing. So whoever's doing this has a I don't know, like a calling card or whatever the hell you would call it. Like, they're doing the same thing to each one.
It's really strange because when I was there just recently, like three or 4 weeks ago, I was getting a tattoo earlier that day, and the girl who works for the artist that I see, she told me that she has a friend who's in APD who she asked about all this, and her friend apparently said off the record they suspect that it could be a police officer that's in the Austin Police Department. And to me, I could see, I'm not gonna present any sort of theory as being correct, but like every single person that I've spoken with, it's like the police malfeasance is just astounding in this case. Like, is there anything with your brother besides them getting the dates wrong that you feel like the police messed up in their investigation on?
Yeah, of course, because the majority of the footage we got, the surveillance from Craft Pride, from Alibi, from all these other ones, we did all that. Like, before they even got to we were already getting footage, and I was sending stuff to the detective. Like, I was presenting them with all this shit. Like, I get it. It was a Thanksgiving holiday. I didn't give a fuck what day it was. Like, my brother went missing. I don't care, what the hell you're eating or what day it is, or if you want to watch the football game. I don't care. Like, you have a job to do. And my mom would call him or hey, we got this footage here, my son's gonna send you something. Like, he would just ignore it. He would respond maybe a day or two later. We'd send him an email with everything. Maybe a day or two later we get, and I'm like, this is an active thing, man. Like, you need to be looking at your damn phone at all times. And we didn't stop. We went from 7 in the morning to as soon as it got dark. And even then, after dark, I still had to pull my mom away from her searches. We kept it up. We never stopped. It wouldn't surprise me if there was somebody that knows, and I know that there's got to be somewhere this little 50-50 split in the APD department that you think that there's a serial killer or not, or is it one of us or not? I just, once again, like I said, I didn't trust anybody. I don't know if there's a group or something like this, because people, why the hell would you ask for the wrong date? You have all the details. You have it all over the news. You have it all over your police department on what's going on. And you go to this specific spot and you're asking. And not only were they asking for the wrong date, after the staff corrected them, they were belligerent and got aggressive towards them. Like it was their fault. They're like, no, we can give you this. No, we don't want that. And makes you think, right?
Yeah, it definitely makes a person think. I guess, what would you like to see them do or have happen?
If there's literally, locations like these bars, that are clearly giving wrong dates of footage and stuff like this, ask for the day before and all the way through. Get 72 hours and see what the hell is going on. See what happened the day before, not just the night of. See what's going on, and then what happened afterwards. What changed from this date to this date, and then check in the center and see what the hell is going on. I just don't know why they wouldn't register. Hey, we need to look. Maybe a day something before happened, or what's changed from this bar. What bartender was there the day before, and what bartender is here now, or who's around in the area that looks suspicious. Do your f***ing job, man. My brother was the salt of the earth, man. He was humble. He was kind. He never said a cuss word. Name one person who doesn't say a cuss word that's 25 years old. Not one damn person. He was the kindest person you'd ever meet. And those f***ers treated him like he was just a number, man. And my brother was not a number. He was a very, very loved person. Just like all these other people were very, very loved individuals. And they just get their cases kicked to the curb like they're nothing.
I've even noticed, they just found that body, what was it, last week?
Yeah.
And it's, regardless if that's not connected or if it is connected, I just think it's bizarre how in the press release they just go out of their way to stay. There is no serial killer. There's nothing here. You know?
So quick to the draw, man.
It's just
They
bizarre.
don't fucking know.
You don't see that ever with stuff like this. And the amount that it's been happening, how it's just exponentially, even when I lived in Austin, it's like this was not happening when I was in college. And then it's like dramatically ramped up.
I mean, I don't have the details of what was going on, but I had heard, like, you know, like, I guess the guy's arms were crossed, his legs were crossed, but he had a gunshot wound and they called it self-inflicted. I'm like, okay. I mean, I know I'm not a detective, but you know, whatever.
So do you think your brother was drugged?
I do. I really do, because like I said, I've drank with my brother, you know, so many weekends, you know, and all this. I know his mannerisms, his behavior, his sense of humor. What I saw that night was not him. I do believe that someone did. It's crazy too, man, because you look at 6th Street. 6th Street has like cameras, like 40 plus cameras on that one street, but they didn't have any on Rainy Street. 0. And that was like a booming bar area for the longest time, for years and years and years. It's not like backing down now because of all the condos, but I mean, for years, you got this other street that has a significant amount of individuals going, people flying, hearing about Rainy Street. I gotta go to that place. And no cameras, nothing.
And that's just, once again, I don't get how that just gets skipped over when you think about security and safety in a city.
You know, and Austin Parks and Rec told me that one of the main contributors for the holdback on anything like that was there was people complaining that it would affect the wildlife, like some birds. It would affect a few birds if we put lighting and cameras around the area. I was like, are you kidding me? Like, you put a halt on this whole process with multiple of your residents dying, families suffering, and all this because of a set of birds and some wildlife. Like, people are dying, man. Ridiculous. One of the things that upset me the most was when I finished giving my speech at this city council meeting. I gave everything I had to this meeting. I had my time at the podium to just spill my heart out.
Hello, everyone. My name is Mitchell Gutierrez, and my little brother was Martin Gutierrez, and I am in favor of Resolution 77. My little brother went missing November 19, 2018, and was found November 26 after several days of searching, over 12 hours a day with friends and family. Our family also had to wait 90 days for an autopsy report, which ruled it as an accidental drowning, which I do not believe. My brother and I were best friends, literally finishing each other's sentences, and he actually lived with my wife and I. I knew him like the back of my hand, and what I saw in that bar surveillance was not my little brother. I strongly and firmly believe that he was drugged at one of the bars on Rainy, and I can't prove it. This was back in 2018 when I brought up how safety measures needed to be implemented to prevent this from happening again. Not one thing was done. No lighting, no surveillance, no fencing, and worst of all, my family and I felt as if no one cared because nothing was done until more people died. Unfortunately, there's been a significant amount since then. According to my basic research, there's been nearly 12 since my little brother. And one is too many. The installation of halo cameras and permanent lighting is no longer an option. It's a necessity to provide answers for what is truly going on in the area. I also support EMS and park rangers patrolling the trailhead area as well on Rainy Street. I feel this approach will increase safety, not only for protection, but also for medical treatment. I know because I'm a nurse practitioner in the ICU here at St. David's, and it'll help. I've been asking for change for many years, but ultimately it's in y'all's hands. Just remember to hold your children tight when you get home, because multiple families like mine don't have that opportunity anymore. And we don't because of the lack of safety measures that should have been implemented years ago. Thank you.
I'm crying at the end, you know, all this stuff, and I finally just get it all out. And some lady from the Austin Parks and Rec, you know, comes up to me and thanks me for my speech and everything and how moving it was. And she asked me for a hug. And I was like, of course, ma'am. You know, she gives me this big hug and everything. And come to find out it was her that's been like denying anything getting done. Yeah, I had no clue. You know, I just thought it was this lady being nice, and she was like the reason for the holdup on everything. And probably the reason that, you know, people can continue to die. And there's no coverage, there's no proof, there's no safety, there's no nothing. And she had the nerve to just ask me for a hug. I don't know if it was guilt or whatever the hell, but pissed me off.
What's been the response from like authorities or people you've talked to when you've suggested that it's not an accident?
Oh man, they just we don't have any proof of that. We don't have this. We don't have that. Like, I mean, they could literally probably see it happening and probably still deny. I don't believe they're telling us the full truth, nor will they ever tell us the full truth until someone talks. Like, someone eventually breaks and someone eventually talks. I'm just waiting for that day to come, because obviously for days and days, I would just sit there on Rainy Street in my car and just hope I would catch somebody. On my days off of work, I would just sit there and just watch and just see if anyone was being unsafe or something like that, somebody getting in a vulnerable spot or something, because no, the APD didn't do anything. And I did, and at night, all that stuff. My now wife was so mad at me, but I was just adamant that I had to do something. I had, like, someone else is going to go. And there was like 7 or 8 people in 2018 that went missing. People, kind of just lean more towards last year when all this stuff was happening, but this thing's been going on for a while. Obviously, with the exception of 2020, no one was at bars, right? So there was nothing then, but it's crazy, man. Not enough change has been implemented in the police department or in the city of Austin.
For me, it pisses me off because, you pay the police out of your taxes, and the whole point is they're meant to protect you. And especially a case like this, it's just systematic failure.
Yeah, I 100% agree, man. I do.
Well, is there anything else you'd like to say or include here before we cut the recording?
No, man, I appreciate your time, bud. Like, it means a lot, and my family and all that want to thank you for giving us this chance, to talk about him and get the word out there on who Martin was and what happened and what transpired and what needs to be done.
Now, I want to thank Mitchell for speaking with me. That is a terrible, terrible story and event. And it's absolutely unbelievable to see the Austin Police Department just not caring to investigate these actual crimes. I mean, Martin was clearly drugged at a bar on Rainy Street where all of these men have been drinking right before they die. He was seen on security cameras walking around, skipping. He had bruising on the back of his head, injuries on his body, and yet they still claim that it was an accident. This is after all those men that we just talked about. This is after all of these people have been found in Lady Bird Lake from similar, quote, accidents. And yeah, the more we dig into all of this, the more you're going to be convinced that this is not a lone wolf. These are not accidents. December 6, 2018, a man named Randy Lexvold is found in Shoal Creek in Austin. Now, Shoal Creek, like the Colorado River where some of the other victims have been found, Shoal Creek feeds into Lady Bird Lake. I actually used to live right off of Shoal Creek Boulevard in Austin. It is an eerie area that is very isolated. Now, Randy had been visiting Austin to watch his daughter participate in the USA Junior National Swimming Championship. And while he was there in town, he went missing. A day after he was seen, his body was found, and when I tell you that his body was found in a very suspicious state, it was extremely suspicious. So Randy's lungs, when they did their autopsy, were filled with fluid. Now, seeing this, the pathologist thought he probably drowned. And even though to this day his cause of death is listed as drowning, his specific manner of death, or exactly how Randy died, is undetermined. And that's because of the state that his body was found in. Now, when Randy was found in Shoal Creek, he had multiple broken bones. His collarbone was broken, his right thumb was broken, he had a broken femur and multiple broken ribs. Also, his head, arms, legs, and torso were covered in scrapes, bruises, and injuries. Now, his injuries, Randy's injuries, were actually so bad that when the police first recovered his body, they couldn't tell his age, they couldn't tell his race, and they couldn't tell his gender. That's how absolutely destroyed Randy's body had been. And still to this day, the police have no explanation as to how Randy ended up from his hotel in Shoal Creek covered in injuries, bruises, scrapes, and broken bones. The only thing that they said, though, is they know that Randy wasn't robbed because his personal items were found on his body. I believe it was his phone or wallet. It was something similar to that. People think he might have been hit by a car and thrown into the river. He could have jumped himself. But as is the case with all of these individuals, most of them were said to be happy. They were said to have been in sound mind. There would be no reason that any of these people really would have taken their lives in such a manner. And that's what's really strange. You see this in this case. All of these people vanishing, then a couple days later, winding up in Lady Bird Lake. They're covered in injuries. Sometimes these injuries aren't even noted on the autopsy reports, the coroner's reports. We're going to get into that in a second. And then the Austin Police Department just moves on. And yes, like in Randy's case, to this day, his manner of death is still undetermined. Then, on Saturday, September 28th, 2019, another body was found. This time, the person who had died was a 28-year-old man named Jake Waltrip. His body was found in Lady Bird Lake near the Holiday Inn by a group of kayakers on Saturday the 28th, and he had gone missing a few days prior on September 26th after a night of drinking in downtown Austin. His official cause of death? Accidental drowning, of course. And now we get to my personal connection and why I think that there is something malevolent happening here. So in November of 2019, back before I was sober, I was asked by a friend of mine, Daniel, to accompany him and some other friends on a night out on the town. I had dropped out of college at that point. I was still trying to be friends with some of my college friends and making time with my YouTube schedule. And so I decided, yes, I would go. I drove over to their apartment. I met him. I met a bunch of his friends that night that were in town that we were going to go out with. And we headed to Rainy Street. So, like I said before, Rainy Street is the bar district, and that night we were going out just to have fun. I had met most of those people there for the first time that night, other than my friend Daniel and one of his friends that I knew, but everyone else was new to me. And one of the guys that was there was a guy named Christian Pugh. Now, Christian and I talked a lot throughout the night. He was a really cool guy. I really enjoyed hanging out with him. I distinctly remember one of the bars that we were in. I was taking photographs of him and a girl that was with us that evening, and everything just seemed great. I had met some really amazing people. We had all gone out. But back in the day, when I used to drink, I'm sober now, like I said, I used to drink to get blacked out. And this was one of those situations where we were all drinking a lot. So at the end of the night, when that time came around, somebody called the Ubers that we were going to be getting into. We were on Rainy Street. Everyone got separated. We got in the Ubers, went back to the apartment, which was about a 15-20 minute drive from there. Everyone was really drunk. And when we got there, that's when people started to say, "Where's Christian? Where did Christian go?" And I was at that point very, very blackout drunk. I had no idea. I had seen him. I had taken the photos of him. I showed everybody he was here at this point in the night, and that was it. So I ended up going home. My girlfriend at the time picked me up. We went back home. The next day, I get a phone call from my friend Daniel saying, "Dude, you don't know anything about Christian. Christian is still missing." And I remember this being like, holy f***, like he's gone. Then came the detective. The detective called me because I was one of the last people to see Christian. I had been with him all night, and they were already treating this as a missing persons report. I sent the detective the photos that I had of Christian. It ended up being the last picture that was taken of Christian. They ended up putting those photographs on the news at the time, asking people if they had seen Christian, if anybody had any idea where this guy had gone, but there was nothing.
This man's family is desperate to find him tonight.
Christian Pugh's family says no one has seen him since early Sunday morning after he'd been on Rainy Street downtown.
Our Patrick Perez spoke with Pugh's father about their frantic search.
Christian's family knew something was wrong last night. They planned to go to a comedy show together, but they hadn't heard from him. And now they just want to know what exactly happened here.
Something's happened, something's wrong, and I don't know what it is, but we need to find it.
Christopher Pugh is desperate to find his son Christian. The 21-year-old disappeared on Rainy Street early Sunday morning after a night of fun with his friends.
We found his car down in Slaughter Lane yesterday, untouched, so he didn't make it back to his car.
Christopher says his son took an Uber from Slaughter Lane to Rainy Street. The last charge on his card was at the Clive Bar on Davis and Rainy. Surveillance video from the Container Bar next door showed Christian dancing. His father says Austin police also told him of another video of Christian's friends waiting outside the bar for him, but he never came out.
He's not here. He's not called. There's been no activity on his phone. There's been no activity on his cell phone or on his credit cards, his bank card, nothing.
The search comes nearly a year since 25-year-old Martin Gutierrez disappeared on Rainy Street. Crews found his body in Lady Bird Lake a week later. It's a memory that crossed Christopher's mind Monday.
We already went and looked at the lake today. No sight. None of the homeless people have seen him. Nothing.
Christopher says he and his family will keep looking for Christian and sharing these flyers until they get answers.
At this point, we're looking for anybody that might have some kind of information on what has happened to our child and where he might be at.
Now, Christian's father tells me Austin police will be out near Rainy Street tomorrow morning with search and rescue crews and some divers. If you know anything about where Christian may be, please call 911. In the studio tonight, I'm Patrick Perez, KVU News.
Days passed, and a couple days later, they found Christian's body down right on the shore of Lady Bird Lake, and he had been so badly injured that he was in a coma.
More than 2 days missing, now found.
He was in rough shape, but we were able to work with law enforcement and get the ambulance requested immediately.
Christian Pugh was reported missing around 1:30 Sunday morning after hitting up Rainy Street. His flyers filled the area as the hours he was last seen continued to grow. Multiple agencies like the volunteer group Travis County Search and Rescue assisted in eventually locating Pugh Tuesday morning alive.
We deployed a variety of teams throughout the entire area, and as one of the teams was beginning their search, they spoke to some local people that were in the area who reported having seen something.
According to police, Pugh was last seen here at Clive on Rainy Street when he was reported missing, but this is nowhere near where he was found. He was actually found south of Lady Bird Lake, near the south end of the Congress Avenue Bridge, a drive that took us about 5 minutes. According to those who found him, Pugh was deep embedded into this brush right here in between the water and the hike and bike trail.
How he managed to get from one to the other, who knows?
According to Casey England with Travis County Search and Rescue, Pugh was found conscious but in very bad shape and was rushed to the hospital.
It would have been difficult for a casual passerby to come upon him. It really took that combined effort with talking to some of the locals that were in the area and those combined search skills to make sure that that all came together.
Last year around this time, a similar incident happened on Rainy. 25-year-old Martin Gutierrez was reported missing after going to the popular bar district. Crews spent days searching for him, eventually finding his body in the lake near the hike and bike trail. England says this incident helped prepare them in finding Pugh.
On that one, we came out and searched for a while for him, and we were actually able to take some of the lessons learned we had from that particular search and apply them to this search, which actually helped us in finding this gentleman that much faster.
No word on just how long Pugh was in the brush.
He was alive. Christian's, I believe, the only person who's been attacked by this group or person that survived, but he was in a coma for weeks, and I remember this and being unbelievably freaked out and thinking, what the hell happened? So right now we're at Rainy Street here in Austin. So back to my personal tie to this story. I was actually with that group of friends with Christian Pugh here on this street on the night that he vanished. So I have a tie to this story through this street, being there with one of the victims and seeing how he was not acting, you know, drunk or any different than any of us. And then all of a sudden he vanished. This is kind of the apex of this story. They actually have nicknamed this potential serial killer online as the Rainy Street Ripper. Rainy Street is a very popular street here. I know even in the time I spent living in Austin, Rainy Street exploded in popularity towards the latter years that I was here. It's a very, very famous place here in Austin. People come here, they come specifically from out of town to just come visit Rainy Street and come get drunk down here. But there's an evil that stalks these streets. Whether it's robberies, whether it's a serial killer, it's definitely something. Somebody is targeting folks, either while they're walking like streets like this, heading towards Rainy. Lady Bird Johnson Lake is that way. I don't know. We don't know what's happening, but we just wanted to show you guys kind of Rainy to give you a clue of what it's like down here when these people go missing. Because it's right now, you got to imagine it's a Friday night. This is 1:00 a.m. So this is going to be the time when this killer or when these thieves are drugging their victims. They're starting to play on these schemes, and then in the next 40 minutes or so, when all the bars shut at 2, that's when they're gonna really grab a hold of these victims. So this is exactly what it would look like. It's a Friday, everyone's out. It's a fun place, but it's goddamn eerie when you consider that, you know, is happening here.
So on the night that we were out here drinking, when Christian went missing, we were actually at the bar right there, Clive. That's where we started our night. And the place where I took a photo of him, and the last place that he was seen at was called the Container Bar. And it's actually no longer here. It's kind of crazy how stuff just disappears here in Austin so quickly. But yeah, it's just a little eerie to think about it. I don't even think I've been back down here since that happened. Weird. It's just strange. And you think about the fact that there could be somebody, there most likely is, at least a bartender, somebody associated with one of these bars down here that's spiking men on purpose with the intent to either rob or have someone kill them. It's f***ing creepy. Who knows who it could be? But Container Bar, where my friend might have been spiked, that's gone. So just weird, man.
As I walked down Rainy Street that night looking around, it was like confronting a literal ghost from my past. Not only because I'm sober now and I used to drink out on this very street, but because of what happened to me and the person that I was with the last time I was there. Something you'll notice that's strange in this B-roll is how empty some of these bars and places seem to be. It was never like that back in the day. And I don't know if this emptiness is because of the fear of a serial killer that's running rampant through the city, but it's something tangible. There's an eeriness, a disconnect on Rainy Street nowadays. And that's because the Austin police are doing nothing to address this problem. That's because there could very well be a serial killer stalking this very stretch of road, or at least a group of organized thieves that are abducting men from this street, robbing them, and killing them. It's definitely a place you have to be safe when you visit. So, Christian doesn't remember anything about what happened to him. He doesn't remember how he got there. He doesn't remember who did what to him. But I've had so many talks with friends over the years about this. Rainy Street and where we were at and where he was found, it's a pretty significant distance. And even, let's say I'm absolutely blackout drunk. I am hammered. I'm doing whatever I can. I'm really, really messed up. I just don't see any logical way where a young man, especially like Christian, who was 21 when we went out, I just cannot see how he would walk by himself down to the river. For what reason? And then trip and fall and somehow injure himself that he ends up in a coma. It has always not sat right with me.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Christopher Pugh. I'm here to support item 77 for my son, Christian Pugh, who went missing November 16th, 2019, and was found on November 19th, 2019. He suffered some very serious injuries, and we need cameras in the Rainy Street district to start catching what is going on and what's happening with folks. There's too many people that have gone missing. There's too many people that have been injured. There's too many people that can walk off, and we still have absolutely no answers as to what has happened to any of these folks. Right now, I stand in front of you. 2 more people have died since the last time I came down here and talked to you, and I'm going to bet that we have no video camera on anything that happened with those incidents. And be quite frank with you, my son went off the Congress Street Bridge where tens of thousands of people pass daily, hundreds of thousands of people probably cross yearly, and there's not one camera down there working, not one. So we really need for the city to not only add them to the Rainy Street district, but you need to add them all over the city. I mean, if people disappear out of 6th Street, West 6th Street, any of these areas, they walk off. Where do they go? If you catch them at the end of the street, no problem, but where do they go from there? My son walked a mile away from Rainy Street before he was found. And that really scares me that he walked that far, and the only camera footage that we have is on South 1st Street. The city had to go beg out of a hotel to get the information. That's not right. I mean, if you guys are relying on video footage to, conduct your investigations, then you need more video footage across the city. There's no question about that. And on top of that, I would like to have my son's, accident case reopened as a non-accident. I've said this multiple times. He got hit in the head. His hands were bruised. He was assaulted. There's no question about that, but I have no way of proving it, and it was closed as an accident. I can't stand here and continue to say it was not an accident. It was not an accident. I need for somebody to address that and start facing the reality that these are not accidents. There's something that's happening. I don't know exactly what it is, but we need to be able to trace it. So thank you for your time, and please go forward with item 77. Thank you, sir.
He doesn't remember anything, so there's nothing more to the story. But But I just don't see how somebody does that. How you walk by yourself all the way to the river and then injure yourself into a coma. Because that's what the police are saying happened. That is what the police are saying happens in every single one of these cases. These guys are walking to the river alone in the middle of the night, completely by themselves, either drunk, sober, whatever state they're in, and then they're somehow injuring themselves and falling into the river and drowning. And there's nothing more to it. There is nobody doing anything. There's nobody hunting or hurting or robbing these men. It's just a sequence of terrible accidents. I obviously didn't know Christian that well. I just met him that night, but I'm tied into this story now because I was physically there with him on the night that he disappeared. I've replayed the night many times in my mind thinking, were there any creepy people around us? Was there anybody who made a weird scene? Did anybody get extra drunk or was somebody drugged? I don't really know. There's nothing that stuck out to me about that night. It's definitely scared me a little bit thinking he was obviously targeting Christian because he was at the time a single man, or whoever this is probably targeted him. But I was out without any significant other, and I was could have been from the surface a single dude who was just alone too. Yeah, I don't think that he did it to himself. There's no way. And I was there to see it. But sadly, he wasn't even close to the last person that would be found. Now, Christian's dad thinks that Christian was hit in the head and he noticed that his hands were bruised, but no toxicology report was ever done. I couldn't even find any details. He doesn't obviously remember anything about being drugged, but I mean, it's just incredibly strange. And there have been drownings and deaths every single year in Austin for the last couple of years, but last year things really heated up. February of 2023, February 5th, 2023, a man named Jason John, who's otherwise known as JJ, went out on Rainy Street once again with his friends, and after the night ended, he went missing. The last bar that Jason was seen in was a bar called Cantina 512, and he had sent a text to his girlfriend that night telling her about how he had met a man who gave him a DJ card at this bar.
Our main thing is we want to find my brother. In good health would be great, but if he has passed, we want to find him. We want to have a proper funeral.
The John family is beyond frustrated as they move into day 8, wondering where 30-year-old Jason John is.
It is the worst nightmare for a family.
The family of Jason has flown in from New York to get answers. His oldest brother, Renju, flew in from his home in Dubai to be with his family in Austin during this difficult time.
It's tough, but it's the most important thing for family to be together in a tough situation like this.
His family says they started to notice something was off when Jason didn't answer the family's weekly call on Sunday.
So I spoke to my mom on Sunday, and then she's like, oh, Jason didn't pick up his phone, which happens time to time. We all get busy in the time difference.
But alarm bells didn't really go off until Jason's family was told that he hadn't been back home at all on Sunday, leaving his dog Ruffles alone.
The key thing is, okay, maybe he went out, he stayed at a friend's place, his phone died, that's all possible. But as soon as we knew that she was at home for hours on end and Jason wasn't back, then we knew something was wrong.
Jason was last seen out on Rainy Street with his friends on Saturday night. Fox 7 Austin was told he left around 2 Sunday morning, believed to have walked home on the Lady Bird Lake Trail.
We have footage of him until the end of Rainy Street. At that point, once he takes that turn, we don't know what direction he went in.
Renju says that walk home should have taken 18 minutes. However, there's only 10 minutes of footage of his brother.
So what happened in the last 8 minutes?
The remaining 8 minutes of his walk home left undocumented due to the lack of cameras in that area.
Did he go in the water? Did he go on the trail? Did he go back on the road? Was he kidnapped? There's no concrete evidence.
Renju says it took 6 days to get the ball rolling in his brother's case. Now, local leaders like Mayor Kirk Watson have joined in on the plea for answers.
It's great. We just wish it came sooner.
APD is investigating. Teams have been searching the area, including the lake, for days now. Whatever the outcome, this brother hopes change comes out of this.
We want that trail to be lit up. It's hard to believe in 2023 that entire trail has no cameras on it. There's no very little lighting. It's incredibly dark over there. That has to be fixed.
Really, really bizarre. Now, video surveillance shows Jason walking back to his apartment after the bar. He was the first of his friends to leave that night, actually, to go home. He's seen on camera shaking hands with the bouncer exiting the venue. It shows him walking, but then the next morning, Jason's friends and roommate realized that he had never returned home. And this was huge. Jason's parents immediately flew down and they started calling everybody. They started going anywhere and everywhere that Jason had been. They were tearing up the streets searching for their son, but there were no signs of him. There were huge groups, search parties organized. People were combing Austin, trying to find Jason or JJ, and no one had any idea where he was. And even though Austin police searched the river multiple times with divers, with sonar boats, Jason was eventually found in the same place that they had searched many times and in the same place where he had been reported missing, in Lady Bird Lake. Jason had alcohol in his body. He had no illicit substances, no medications in him at the time, and he was just 30 years old when he died. Again, this has not been fully explained. And on the night that he died, Jason, who was visiting, said, "I love Austin. I never want to leave Austin." His friends heard him say that. So his parents decided to bury him there in Austin, Texas. And JJ's parents believe that somebody hurt their son. I'll let them share their thoughts with you.
We were in disbelief. I felt like watching like a scary movie.
Jason John's mother shares her reaction to the news about another body being found in Lady Bird Lake. Police say 33-year-old Jonathan Honey was found Saturday afternoon and was reported missing the day before. The cause of his death is still under investigation. Multiple bodies have been found in the lake in recent years. At least 3 have happened in similar fashion, connected to the Rainy Street area. Martin Gutierrez in 2018, Julio Santos in 2015, and Christian Pugh in 2019. He was found alive 2 days later.
This is odd, and not only the fact that there would be so many accidents in an area that previously had none, but also the fact that no one noticed.
District 9 Council member Zoe Quadri, who represents the area, says there have been temporary lights and fencing put up as they work towards a more permanent solution.
I've already been speaking with the mayor and other folks here at the city. I think we need to just go back and kind of huddle again. And see what we can do and kind of get to the bottom of this. Why does this continue to happen?
In a public safety committee meeting in February, he assured families that work is being done to get cameras installed.
There should be lights there. There should be cameras there. There should be blue lights where you can push for help.
John's mother says she doesn't believe her son's death was accidental. She says she will continue fighting for others to make sure this doesn't happen again.
Every person who goes into Lady Bird Lake, you cannot just say it's accidental drowning. There's something behind. It's very clear. You don't need to be an APD or an FBI to figure this out based on all these criteria, the age of the men missing, the timing and the place. It's just common sense. It's time for the city to wake up. It's time for the city to do something.
Then there's Cliff Axtell. Now, Cliff, on the 25th of February, was out drinking once again on Rainy Street. He had a wife and children, but sadly, he didn't come home, and Cliff was eventually found floating in Lady Bird Lake. He was deemed an accidental drowning once again. Shortly afterwards, 33-year-old Jonathan Honey went missing. He was once again a smart, athletic guy. And on March 31st, 2023, Jonathan Honey was seen at a taco truck in the Rainy Street area. Again, Rainy Street. And a few hours later, his friends reported him as missing. Then, shortly afterwards, on March 1st, April Fool's Day 2023, Jonathan Honey's lifeless body was once again pulled out of Lady Bird Lake. He was the 3rd victim in 2023 in the first half of 2023. And once again, he was a young man. He had been drinking on Rainy Street. He had been out on Rainy Street. He disappeared after leaving that area, and he was found in Lady Bird Lake. Unexplained how he ended up in the river. Once again, APD not classifying any of these deaths. Keep in mind, every single death that we've covered so far has been immediately classified by the Austin Police Department as being an accidental death. Not any of them have been treated as suspicious. No suspects have ever been looked at, to my knowledge. And then we get to Christopher Clark. Now, I actually spoke with the mother of Chris Clark's child. She had been on and off with him for 10 years. They were good friends for most of their life. And what she's about to tell you guys about his disappearance and eventual discovery in the river is really going to blow your minds. Can I have you just introduce yourself first?
Regan Aparicio, the mother of Christopher Clark's son. Chris, we grew up together. We met in 2009. We met in high school, and then shortly, I want to say probably like 6 months after, I became pregnant with our son, his only son. And then we had a relationship for about 10 years on and off. The last couple of years after we separated, we just still remain friends because we have a kid, and there's just, two different people on two separate paths. He did have an addiction problem. He was addicted to PCP, and he also had mental health issues. I know like a lot of that played a part of them not wanting to investigate what happened to him, because at the time he was listed as what Austin Police Department call a transit, which is homeless. He lived with me 2 years before his death. I let him stay with me because he was trying to get better, trying to change his life. And he did. He was working. Addiction is a hard thing to deal with. He wasn't a bad person. Not only did he take care of my son, when he was able to and he was around, but he also did a lot of babysitting for our close friends. He loved the kids. He worked for the city of Austin at the Austin Park and Recreations. Everybody loved Chris. Super funny, outgoing, always joking around. He didn't care if you were crying about somebody's funeral. He was going to make a joke. Like, he was going to laugh. He didn't care. And he was just a good person all the way around. Everybody has their own problems and their own issues that they're dealing with. And unfortunately, addiction and mental health was one of his. He did lose his grandparents. He still has his mom that he was living on and off. So he wasn't homeless. He just chose to be on the street. So he actually had places to go. But I saw him April the 9th, which was Easter Sunday. That was the last time I saw him. He was at the Walgreens on Airport here in Austin. We didn't really talk briefly because we just hadn't been on the right page recently. And so we just kind of, hey, goodbye, whatever. And then we just kept going. That was the last time I saw him. So I already knew he was fine. I saw him every day because I checked on him every day. I knew where he hung out. I just went by, made sure he was good, whatever. Then Monday came around. Through that whole week actually came around, and I didn't see him. Normally when I'd be on my way to work, I didn't see him out hanging around or anything, but I didn't think nothing of it because he also had some run-ins with the police department just because of his issues that he was dealing with. But anytime he'd go to jail, he'd always call. So I already knew like something was up because he didn't call. He always calls and nothing happened. But I still really didn't think because I'm like, it could be anything. And then they found him Saturday, but I didn't find out until that Sunday when they contacted his mom. His mom contacted his best friend to call me and let me know. And they just said that they found him in Lady Bird Lake. They didn't know how long he'd been there. From the moment when I found out, I immediately went to his mom's house because I didn't believe it. Like, talking to you right now, I'm talking about it, but I still I can't believe, it just doesn't seem real. So I went there, of course, it was very, very, I was distraught, I want to say. I was crying. It was a lot going on. I had to figure out, how am I supposed to tell my 12-year-old son that his dad is, dead in the worst possible way? It was just a lot of things going through my mind, who could he have been with? Why was he there? Was he there? And the moment that she told me that it was real, his mom, I instantly, and it call me crazy or call me not, I instantly thought the police did it, because I knew that before he went missing, or I didn't see him for that week, he had an encounter with the police. They don't mention it. They never mentioned it, but I did after, because immediately I started trying to do my own investigation because no one was trying to help. They were just like, he was homeless. How could we tell? That's exactly what the detectives say. How can we find out what happened to a person if they were homeless and we had no trace of it? Mm-hmm. That's wrong, because just because you can't find out, I'm sorry, but I grew up in East Austin. Me and Chris did. And the streets talk more than anything, especially when you're hanging out. And East Austin never used to be a good place to be around. Now it is because it's gentrified, but back then, no. And you pretty much know someone. Everybody knew him around. So for them to say they didn't know because he was homeless, or they can't find out because he was homeless, it wasn't right to me. So I instantly started finding out how to request records, things like that. And then I came about the ticket. Supposed to be he got a trespassing ticket. This would have to been either that Monday or Tuesday. I have to go back in my files to give you the exact date, but it was either that Monday or Tuesday he had an encounter with the police at the same place where I saw him last, which was on Airport, except he wasn't at the Walgreens. It's a plaza actually there, and in that plaza there's a restaurant, fast food, Golden Chick. I don't know if you're aware of that. It's there. Yep. So he was at the bus stop at Golden Chick, and he had issued for him not to go on the Golden Chick property because he was panhandling. So when I found this out, of course, all this information, it took me a long time to like get some of the stuff because I had to pay for it. I had to request it. You know, it's just a lot to get that information. But once I got it, they didn't really give me the trespassing ticket because they never really issued one. When I requested it, they gave it to me, but they blacked everything out. So I couldn't, there was no point for them to give it to me because I couldn't read what was on the paper. But I know they didn't give him a ticket because I actually have video footage of the encounter from the body cam that I requested that they couldn't, because when they came to try to give him the ticket or arrest him, he wasn't on the property. He was at the bus stop and he was asleep. And this was after I had seen him that Easter Sunday. So in the video, it just shows 3 or 4 officers approach him. Before I even watched the video, I knew that they already knew who he was. And of course the video played and they knew exactly who he was. He was asleep on the bus stop. They approached him and told him, he knows he's not supposed to be there. He was very aware. So they can't say that, he was so drugged out or whatever they want to say that he didn't know. He knew, because his response was, but I'm at the bus stop. I'm not at Golden Chick. So I'm not doing anything wrong. I'm literally laying here. The officers did go away from him and they discussed amongst each other. This is on the footage. And they basically, one of them, I guess he was new, a rookie, and he asked about him, and one of the officers knew exactly who he was. They knew where his grandma used to stay. They said exactly that, all the issues that he had, and that he constantly gets calls when he was living with his mom. They would get police calls when he'd be at his mom's house. So I knew they already knew who he was.
Right now, so I'm going to go talk to him just to make sure I can remind him of if we do come here, he is. Hey, Christopher? Christopher? Hey, Christopher. What? You okay, man? Do you need any EMS? No. You all good? What's going on with you today? You need money? Yeah. Well, Christopher, I'm here to tell you, man, you can't go back to Golden Chick. You have a criminal trespass notice there. And if you come and you're there, we're going to have to arrest you. I'm at the bus stop. I know you're at the bus stop. You can be at the bus stop. But if you get back to the Golden Chick, they have a criminal trespass on you, so if you go back there, you'll be arrested. Do you understand that? What's up? All right, I'm just talking to you. You're okay? No EMS needed? No. All right, you have a good day, okay? Yeah.
You dealt with him before? Yeah. We'll be getting more calls on them later. So
they didn't identify him in the last report. They just said
we'll do a supplement and ID.
So it's like, what's your experience with this guy? Same very similar thing, like criminal trespass?
He used to be, but he used to never be listening all the time. Like MLK and Chacon, we arrested him many times. And then he just started.
I used to live off Alabama. I lived down in 16. Park.
He used to be chill. Like he used to give us free stuff at the Shell, and then he started getting a criminal trespass notice over there. And, just went downhill. Like every time we try to take him to jail or something or put him in handcuffs, so he'll probably fight. So
that's good to know. Just don't do drugs.
His mom stays at 6200 Loyola in that first building on the left, so there'll be calls over there for him.
Yeah, Verzadak's over here, man. Jesus.
Let's go back up 6 crimes on that thing.
Okay, I gotta go to the radio show.
Okay.
Complaining is advising a male knocking on the door and harassing
girlfriend.
Oh, so we got something cool going on?
Go do like a
knuckle swab search warrant.
After that, nobody knew where he was. Nobody knows where he went. Nobody knew where he was. Nobody seen him. I asked some of the homeless people that he would hang out with that I knew of, like, where did they see him last? And of course, I can't really believe, everyone, because there wasn't any valid info. But one thing in particular stuck out to me. One lady said that she saw him with a Caucasian man that they had never seen before. And then another person said the last time they saw him was on East 7th Street near the HEB. And if you live in Austin, if you go straight down Pleasant Valley, you hit the lake. So I was like, okay. But I tried to retrace all his steps. He would go do day labor work. There's a day labor on East 7th Street, literally right past the HEB. And I know he would go there and do day labor work to get money some days. So I thought there, but they couldn't give me the list of the names because they said they'd have to call corporate. It was just a whole big deal. And then at that time, I was trying to plan his funeral, doing all that by myself and trying to raise the money. And it was a lot going on. But I kept in contact with the pathologist. That's who I started with next. When the detective, he kept ignoring me. She basically, when they gave me the autopsy report, basically she said a lot of stuff they couldn't evaluate on him because they kept blaming the water, about him being in the water too long. They couldn't do certain things because he had been in the water too long and, all this and that. And I was like, okay, but you can't tell me if he had a heart attack, did he have a stroke? Did he overdose? Because that was another thing I thought. I was like, well, maybe, he overdosed, somebody panicked. I walked the lake a lot, and I used to. A lot of homeless people, they go down in the trees and in the wooded area, which is very close to, and they live in there. Yep. Hang out in there, do drugs in there, whatever they may be doing. So I already know, it is a possible chance he could have been hanging out there. But my thing about it is they tried to say that he put himself there. I don't think Chris put himself there. And I know he didn't because he did Boy Scouts and he liked to be outdoors. He actually was one of the people that taught my son how to swim. They go canoeing all the time. We went as a family, no matter the relationship between me and him, all the time to South Padre. He loved being in the water, beach, he was more outdoorsy, really outdoorsy. He could survive outdoors. He taught my son things and me. So I know he didn't just put himself in the water. But they couldn't tell me. The pathologist said she couldn't tell me if he had a heart attack, if he drowned. She just said there was water in his lung, but they couldn't even tell me that. So I felt like I was being lied to. And I still feel like I'm being lied to. I reached out to the detective multiple times. He only talked to me 2 times or 3. The first time was at the beginning. He basically said that what I told you, he doesn't know, and how can he know, because he was homeless and they were going to do what they can, but they never investigated. I went to the lake every day by myself. I risked my life. One particular thing that stood out to me, one time when I went, I encountered a man, a Hispanic man. And I did call the police and let them know that this happened. They seemed to not care. I went to the lake to just ask, have y'all seen this man? Has he been around here? And there was a Hispanic man. He didn't seem to be homeless, but I couldn't really tell. He was walking and I said, hey, do you know this man? And I had a picture. And he came really close to my car and he said, that's Chris. And everybody, you would have to know Chris to call him Chris. So I'm like, I didn't even have to say his name for him to say who this was. And I said, yeah, have you seen him? And he said, who's asking? And this is after he's been dead. And I'm like, I just want to know, have you seen him around here? I'm looking for him. And he goes, but why? And then he started to back up and get kind of antsy. And I was like, well, I'm his baby mama. I'm looking for him. I've been looking for him. And he actually died here. So I'm trying to see what happened. The man ran. We're at the lake. And I'm at the spot where they found Chris in my car. So he takes off running. I immediately park. Don't ask me why I did it, because I was alone and I probably shouldn't have been doing that. But I followed him. And because I wanted to know, why are you running? You must know something and you're just running away. And so I ran. There's a bridge down there, the Ann Butler, I guess is what they call it, the green one. He ran in that direction, but I guess you would have to know the lake to be knowing the ins and out, which I don't. I just know you can get on the bridge and then go around. So I got on the bridge, and we weren't far, and he was gone. The guy was gone. So I was like, dang, where did he go that fast? Like, I know he didn't jump in the water. Like, where did he go? So I walked the trail, and I had my taser, and I was by myself, and my adrenaline was up. So I guess that's why I kept going. And when I got halfway to the trail, the guy was on the opposite side, because there's you can go in there, I guess, if you want to walk in the woods. And he was on the opposite side already, and I heard him. He changed his shirt. He had a muscle shirt when I had the first encounter, and he put on a black t-shirt. You can see across the lake where he ended up at, and he was on the phone. There was really no one around, because it was I want to say like evening time when I went. And the only thing I heard him say on the phone was, they're walking around and they're asking questions. So by the time I walked all the way around, which probably led me to Canterbury Street for me to enter where he was gone. And I never seen the guy again. I went multiple times after that, and I never seen the guy again. So I called the police, I let them know, and then the detective, they just said, I shouldn't be doing that and putting myself in danger. But I'm like, you're not doing anything. Nobody's going and asking, because all you need to do is ask. You can ask people. I'm pretty sure these people, they'll tell you. Like, I was doing whatever I knew, what I can do. And that pretty much was it. I kept going and I kept going. Me and my best friend and one of Chris's best friends, we actually went, because like I said, people were living in the wooded area in the lake, and they had like tents. I have pictures where we went inside the tent. Like, I was doing dangerous things. I was like, we were in places there that we probably shouldn't have been. I just was trying to get answers, because I was looking for his shoes. I knew he wore Crocs, and I knew he died in the same clothing that he had the encounter with the police. So what I saw on the body cam is what they found him in. Didn't find the Crocs. Crocs were missing. The only items they were able to give me from the funeral home after it was investigated was headphones and a lighter. Nothing else. I asked for the clothes. I kept being told, and call me crazy if you want, but I'm gonna say maybe the funeral home had something to do with this too, because when I kept asking for the clothes, at first I was told they're being investigated by the police. We can't give them to you. That police have. Then I would call and ask the pathologist and all of them, okay, when y'all are done with the clothes, I want the clothes, because I wanted them. They said they didn't know where the clothes were. I kept being pressed from the funeral home to cremate him. I do have some of the photos, because I paid for it, of him after, and I had already seen the photos of him deceased. Nobody knows where these clothes that he had. And in fact, I was told that he was cremated with the clothes. And I've never heard of that either.
Never.
Which brings me back to something else that was weird. So before they closed the case, I kept bugging the detective. Like, he wouldn't answer, but I would leave message, email, leave message. I kept calling until he finally basically talked to me. He asked me, like, what was I trying to do? Basically, like, what was I trying to gain from all of this? And because they didn't have any information. And I told him, like, if you really say that you don't know what happened to him, you really say that y'all say that he put himself there, this and that, y'all really don't know, y'all can't find out, then show me the crime scene photos, show me those photos. He kept saying, like, no, we don't want to do that because you're mental, you don't want to see. I did want to see, because before we cremated him, they really only let me see him for 2 minutes. My mom can contest to that, and his cousin, because we were the only 3 allowed. And that was a very shady situation too. So he agreed to meet with me before they closed the case, which was at the end of August, like right after he passed away. So I want to say like 4 or 3 months afterwards, we met in the end of August. I met the detective alone. I have video footage of that. Mind you, we made this appointment like 3 weeks before me going there. I went there like around 10. He didn't call me back until 10:30. He only shows me like 6 or 7 photos. He claims there was more. Like, I think I wanted to say, he said like 99. Mind you, I have all this written down. I just don't have it with me right now. But there was more photos that he could have showed me, but he only chose to show me like 9. And I asked him, I said, well, you knew I was coming, so why didn't y'all have it? He said his printer wasn't working. But this is something that you knew.
No way.
That I was coming to. You knew this was happening. You knew I wanted to see. So he shows me basically photos of Chris when they pulled him out of the water. In one of those photos, Chris had a mask. So he died clutching a mask. They never mentioned this to the public. They never say anything about this, literally until that day when I was in the room with the detective. And I was like, so where's the mask? Because if you're telling me that he died and he put himself in the water, why would he be clutching a mask? If a person is drowning or trying to commit suicide Why would they be clutching on to something so pointless as a mask?
Are you talking about like a face mask?
No, I'm talking about like the street term is a poo shiesty mask. It's one, you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Right. That's exactly what it was. So Chris would wear masks because he just would wear masks, but it wasn't that kind of mask. When I saw it in his hand on the photo, and this is a photo that they won't release. I only have some of the crime scene photos. They won't give me all of them. He said that they said it was his mask, but when I saw the mask, it was like a tactical mask. It didn't look like something that he could afford, because the ones that he would wear would be like, the cheap cloth ones with like a study on there. It wouldn't be nothing too expensive that he ever had. So when I saw it, I was like, okay, but where's the mask? Did y'all get the mask? No, because we just assumed it was his. Nobody knows where the clothes or the mask. So I'm just assuming everything either got thrown away or burnt, because that's what I'm being told. So then that was it. They closed the case. The detective left it at that. I didn't really want to keep talking to him because he wasn't going to give me anything. So there was nothing for me to say. He just showed me whatever he wanted and then he let it go. They closed the case. I still requested things, which I barely got, but it's just body cam footage of like when they went to the lake. So I know exactly where he was found, which we were on point. We just didn't know the exact location, but they left it pretty much at that. And they just closed it. They deemed his death undetermined. There's literally nothing. I did try to raise money to get because they said I have like 2 years to get the samples from the lab and try to do an outside lab. I tried to raise money, but it just wasn't successful. And I don't have money like that. I'm a single mom. I've been a single mom, and it's expensive living here. So I couldn't just pay for it like I, would like to do. So now I've just been stuck with nothing else to do. I still try to do little investigation here and there. I mean, it's a year later. A lot of these people that I ask, which are the homeless community, the street people, they don't remember.
That's crazy.
And then, the police really didn't do anything, but I honestly feel like it was the police. He had a rough patch with them, and it was just weird to me that they didn't really mention that they had the last encounter with him before anybody didn't see him again. In the videos that I saw, the encounter, they were called to the location multiple times the last time they saw him. And the last video, because again, they gave me what they wanted. They didn't give me all the footage. They gave me bits and pieces. So from the bits and pieces, the last piece that it's when he's walking across the street away from them. And the police is just like, we can't really give him a ticket to the security guard because he's not on the property. Like every time we come, he's not here. So we can't arrest him. I went across the street and I asked for video footage at it's like a gas station / car shop. They said they don't have any footage, that their footage expires after 30 days. I was just left with that. And now we just really don't know. And it sucks because every day, I don't want to cry right now because my son's there, but every day, I literally cry because what is my son supposed to do? And it's just it's in the public, and it's not just because it's Chris. It keeps happening. My son's 13. He's on the internet. He's been on the internet. They play games, stuff like that. He keeps seeing it. He Googles what happened at the lake. He Googles his dad's name because he wants answers. And that's what I kept telling the police department. I just want to know. He's not coming back. There's nothing that nobody can do, but we want to know. And from the crime scene photos, I personally think that he was beat up and put in the lake. They tried to say on the autopsy report, I'll send you a copy, that he had no trauma. But from the stuff that I seen, there's trauma. They blamed it on the water, but it's not all water. It's not.
What you're telling me, it's very clear that it's not an accident. And this is a straight up murder that is completely bulldozed by law enforcement.
I'm gonna be straight up and I'm gonna tell you, I told the detective straight to his face, y'all only doing this because of who Chris is. I know there's other people that have been found in the lake, but I feel like him particularly was targeted because, and I hate to say it, because it's not like he didn't have a family that didn't care about him. Everybody cared about him and loved him. But who's gonna actually be able to prove that the police did this to him because of who he was? And that's where I told the detective, and he was like, no, we don't discriminate on the person. But it's a lie. It's all a lie. And that's what I kept telling him. He does have a son, and I keep saying it, not just Chris, people have families. Like, to not know, and especially me, like, I don't know about the other families, but I saw these photos. I have these photos. I constantly look at these photos of somebody that I grew up with, that was around me a lot for most of my life. To see him like that, from what I know, it's not, he didn't do it to himself. I know he did it. I'm gonna be honest. At nighttime, and this is why I always say, like, I can't tell you if Chris was at the lake or not. I cannot sit here and say, no, he would never go to the lake. I'm not gonna sit here and say that. I don't know. I don't know what happens at night, nor do I know where he hung out at night. But I can say the people there that hang around, and I'm gonna say the street people, because I don't know what else to say, but the people who live on the street and hang out in the street, they got their own world. I do feel like the cops are connected to these people, because I do feel like they're crooked, and there's, you know, shady things going on between the cops and some of these people. So I feel like there's someone that knows, or he knows what happened, or knows who did it, and they're all keeping in contact so nobody will get caught.
What did the authorities say at the end of the day, like, happened to him? What was their explanation?
The detective, he just said that when we met in person, he said Chris was dead before he entered the water. He said that. I'd have to, because I literally was taking notes. Like, after any encounter I had, I would, like, write it down in my notepad so I wouldn't forget. So it's been a while that I've read them, but he did say that he knows Chris was dead before he went in the water. And then they even tried to say, like, maybe he was walking on high on drugs and that he fell. But I'm like, Chris started his addiction when my son was 2. My son's 13 now. I've seen him at his worst. And I'm talking about his choice of drug, and I'm gonna just say it straight. It was PCP. He smoked a little weed here and there, and he smoked cigarettes heavy. I've seen him at his highest, and he can function. He was a functioning person that was on drugs. Like, you could tell when he was high, obviously, but it wasn't to where he never had control of himself. Like, he knew exactly what he was doing.
Yeah, I actually kind of have a personal connection to that whole world. I went to rehab in Austin last October, and I got out in December. I know what it's like to be in the midst of an addiction, and I was extremely high functioning as well. When it comes to an addict, in my mind, the drug angle can be tossed out because they've been doing drugs, or in my case, I was drinking so much that it's not like I was even getting drunk anymore. It was just kind of, I could do everything that I wanted to do or had to do while I was drunk. So I would imagine it would be the same situation here, where after however many years, 10, 15 years of doing the same drug, it's not like one day he's gonna do too much of it and then suddenly drown in a river. Like, that's just not possible in my mind.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I said. And when they first told me he was found in the lake, immediately I said the police. And then when I really found out about the encounters that Monday or Tuesday, whenever they had the encounter with him, I immediately felt like they followed him off the record. They put him in that cop car and they beat him up, probably so bad to where he probably couldn't fight back. And I feel like they waited and they dumped him. That's what I think happened. I mean, I don't really know, like, who would actually want to harm him. I mean, I did think of other things, like maybe he owed someone money, you know, maybe it was a drug thing. But at the end of the day, I'm like, no, because it just doesn't seem like that situation. I'm left with the unknown. And honestly, like, this year has been rough for myself and my son, because not giving up, I just don't know where else to go. And that's why I've been on a pause, because I literally don't know what else to do. Like, I've done every single thing. I've tried every single thing. And to me, I just feel like if you don't have certain connections, you can't get certain stuff. I feel like Austin Police Department felt like, because of who Chris was, like, who's going to actually care? Who's going to actually keep fighting for him? But that's where they're wrong, because he had someone to actually care, like, and we want to know. His family wants to know. We want to know.
So what do you think? I mean, what's the deal in your mind with all the other men that have died? Do you think that this could be connected to that?
I do. I feel like the police has something to do with it, because they're the only ones that are patrolling. I mean, not just saying there's people doing stuff, whatever, all night, but like bar situation, Rainy Street, like, they're around there. They know the ins and the outs, and like, so I do feel like it's an officer that they're trying to either protect, or they just don't want to say because they enjoy doing this.
I mean, in my mind, it's all too similar to not be connected. And I mean, you've lived in Austin, what did you say, your whole life?
Yeah, Born and raised.
Even me I moved there in 2015, and it's like these drownings were not happening to this frequency back then. So when you have all of these that are suddenly starting to happen, there's no way in a mind that can think clearly that there's no connection between at least some of these deaths.
Right.
It might not be all of them.
I think it's most of them, and honestly, that brings me back to when Chris was found in the lake. He was actually the fourth person, and like he passed away in April, so like January, I think one was found that January, February, like 2 people, and then Chris, he was like the fourth person. So I'm like, that's like a lot of people in a short amount of time for y'all not to say they just ended up in the lake, or they got so drunk, or on some type, because I think most of those people, they tried to say they were drinking, they did some kind of drugs, and my thing is like, but what would make someone want to go to the lake?
The pitch black lake with no lights,
right,
at 3 a.m.
Unless someone is, and I did think about either somebody was luring them in. I did think about that as a possibility, because I'm like, somebody could be walking, and I thought about Chris. I'm like, he could have been walking, going somewhere, and somebody was like, hey, come over here, whatever, and then whatever happened. Who's gonna know? You can't see down there. I went there multiple times where Chris was found at night, and you can't see. And I did see that the city of Austin is actually in the spot where he was found. They're trying to make some kind of bridge, like over the lake for people to walk. And I'm like, but you spend so much money in tax dollars, and that I'm not even a politician. I don't care about any of that stuff, but like, y'all are gonna spend $10 million on a bridge to go over a lake where y'all can't even tell who's killing these people and ended up in the lake. So you want more people to actively walk around and be on this lake? No. If they do feel like, oh, these people are just wandering and putting themselves there, if you feel like that and you say that that's what's happening, then why don't y'all close the lake at a certain time at night or put a patrol? I asked them that, and they said, well, we don't have enough manpower to do that. That doesn't make sense. So just continue, let people die because you don't want to go patrol the lake. You patrol downtown.
They got hundreds of officers downtown at that same time. Why not take 2 of them and put them down there?
Exactly. But they won't. I feel like they should be ashamed of themselves. The police department and the city of Austin, they should be ashamed of themselves, because literally all these people that have passed away in this lake, nobody has answers. Not one single person has an answer to what happened to their loved one.
Well, and it's a slap in the face too, to hear them, I would imagine, constantly going on the news and saying, well, this is not a murder. Like, none of this is suspicious. And the fact that they even just refuse to acknowledge that it could possibly, in their mind, be something other than an accident is infuriating. And I'm not, I had my friend who I was with, but obviously I never had somebody pass away that I was close to that this happened to. I can't even imagine like what that feeling is like.
It really sucks. It just sucks. And I'll tell you, just like I tell everybody else, it's heartbreaking, because it's like, this happened. There's nothing that I can do about it. My son, he's a kid. He was literally 12. And him and his dad, they were really like close, like super close. And it just sucks that like he doesn't have that anymore. His dad can't like come see him play. He doesn't get that. He doesn't get to have that. And it just sucks.
So what would you like to see at the end of the day? I don't want to say a perfect world, but let's say something positive can happen in this case. What would you like to see happen?
I would like to see them do something about the lake. I literally would just like to see, if they cannot or don't want to figure out what happened, or they never can figure out what happened or who's doing this, like, then just start doing something and protecting everybody here in Austin, even the visitors, because some of these people, they were just visiting and they just ended up at this lake. I just feel like they need to do more security, and like, I'm gonna even say it, screw the lights. Put people down there. You have police here, you bring the sheriffs here and the constables to give out tickets for people speeding. Why don't you put people down there at the lake, all around the lake, because it's big, to see what's going on, to prevent somebody else from going through this? Because I don't like wish this on anyone else. And I'm gonna keep saying it. It doesn't feel real. It doesn't feel real that I'm saying this, that I'm saying that Chris is dead and he was found in the lake. It doesn't feel real to me. Yeah, I know it's real, but it just doesn't. Like, it's just baffling, like, that they're not doing anything. I just would like for something to be done. If you can't give me a simple, this happened, or a person, fine. Then close the lake or put something, a barrier around the lake, something to protect anybody else from getting hurt. But they won't.
And that's the biggest question, is why exactly won't they? Hopefully you can raise kind of enough right now where they would actually open it up and solve this stuff, or at least give people a reason, and then you can start moving on. Because with the grief, I mean, I imagine it's impossible to even try to deal with it when it's just like this big unanswered question.
Right.
And
it is.
It's a slap in the face to all the people who are affected by this, to deny them even the fact that they just don't look into it is just absurd to me. Right. But is there anything else you want to say before I quit recording?
Oh, no, just thank you. Thank you for giving me a voice and giving Chris a voice. And, thank you for caring enough just to speak on this, just for not him, but for everybody. I feel like every single person that has passed away at that lake, they deserve justice. And I hope that, like you said, one day somebody can get some answers. Even if I'm not here anymore for whatever reason, I hope my son can find out what happened to his dad.
So that was in 2023. There were more bodies found later that year. There have been multiple bodies found this year in Lady Bird Lake. There was just a body found, I want to say 2 weeks ago in Lady Bird Lake, or right off of the shore of Lady Bird Lake. This one is interesting because it was initially classified as blunt force trauma that killed this individual. And then the police switched it and said that it was a self-inflicted wound. This person had taken their own life. But somebody I talked to that is involved very deeply in this case stated that from an insider, they heard that this person had been found with both arms and legs crossed, and they had been shot in the back of the head. Now, Austin, people for years at this point, these deaths had started in the early 2010s, 2008, and they reached a fever pitch, and everybody in the Austin area started talking about the potential for a serial killer. You have all of these men going missing, a lot of them from the exact same area. They're all being found in the same area. They're all dying the same way. A lot of these men have unexplained injuries like broken bones or bruises on the back of their heads. You have family members like Mitchell, who's actually going out and doing the police work for the police, or Regan, who saw a man by the river acting suspiciously and was told that her husband was seen with a man he'd never been seen with before. All this stuff, and they're telling the police this. None of this matters. The police are refusing to call these homicides or even look at them in a suspicious way. And in fact, it's the exact opposite. Family members of victims have gone before the Austin City Council pleading for them to make some sort of a change. And what they've gotten in response is statements saying there is no serial killer, there is no murderer, these are accidents. And yet they can't definitively prove why they're accidents or what happened. I mean, take Christian Pugh, the guy I was with. How does he end up away from Rainy Street by the river, completely beaten to a pulp? Oh, my light just died. And they don't acknowledge it. Same with all the other people that have been found with injuries that aren't consistent with just your average drowning. There are also users on Reddit who have showed that there's a list of people not necessarily found in Lady Bird Lake, but victims that have died in similar circumstances in the surrounding areas. Now, I'm not going to go out and say that these people are connected to this, but it is very interesting because there are links between some of these victims, the ways that they disappeared, the ways that they died, and the similarities in all of these cases are bizarre. Most of these victims appear to have had alcohol in their systems at the time that they died. A lot of these victims are either found in Lady Bird Lake or in a surrounding river or creek. A lot of these victims were last seen in the Rainy Street district or in other nearby bar areas around Austin. And so, yeah, we're left with so many damn questions. So there are a few theories as to what could be happening here. I watched a very interesting video by the Law and Crime Network where the guy who made that video says that it's possible that these people are being killed as a part of robberies gone wrong. The drug that these men could be being drugged with it's out of your system within hours. And with the time frame of when these men are going missing and when their bodies are being found, the drug has more than enough time to leave their systems and be completely undetectable by toxicology reports. So if these men are out at a bar being drugged, what's happening? Well, there have been these rings busted around America recently. A lot of them are being ran by women, where these men who look to be somewhat wealthy are drugged. They're lured in by a woman or maybe by a fake Uber. They're way too drunk. They think that they're drunk even though they've been drugged. So they're sent into this fake Uber, or they go home with this person, and then they take advantage of them, rob them, log into their phones, send them thousands of dollars through their bank accounts. I'm actually going to let a guy who that happened to in Austin explain it himself.
Yeah, so I was out with a group of friends downtown Austin. We had been at a couple bars. It was, in no way to the point of blackout drinking.
Ending the night at Estelle's Cocktail Bar off 4th Street.
The last kind of memories I have were, hanging out around, the DJ booth upstairs near the dance floor, dancing a little bit by the bar upstairs, and then FaceTiming, my cousin, letting him know that I was getting into an Uber. And then I woke up the next morning in my bed.
To a gut punch discovery, cards and phone were missing, and so was a lot of money.
10 to 12 different charges at 3 different Walmarts near Katy, Texas, that accumulated to about $10,000. A series of $3 charges, and then $900 plus cash back withdrawals. In addition to that, I saw there was a Zelle payment for $1,000. There was a 7-Eleven charge, and there was 2 separate $1,000 withdrawals from my ATM.
An ATM on 5th Street and a 7-Eleven on North Lamar. Since then, Steve has been in communication with Austin police and many others.
It's been exhausting. I've spent over 100 hours of my personal time trying to find the right entity that's willing to have my back.
When we spoke with Steve, he had just received this letter from Chase denying his 3rd fraud claim.
We're sorry to learn about the incident you describe. We've reviewed your claims totaling $12,877.48 filed on August 7th. We confirm that the claims were denied because your PIN was used with no invalid attempts made when the ATM transactions were completed or after the card was reported lost.
How do you think they got your PIN number?
Really, that's a great question.
I don't remember anything that happened that night.
In February 2022,
I saw emails with Venmo charges from someone I don't know, and they equaled up to like $2,300.
we spoke with a man who shared an eerily similar story. In October of that year, police announced the arrest of 2 women for posing as rideshare drivers back in February and robbing victims downtown of thousands of dollars. In the police report for Steve's case, the detective wrote, "A common criminal tactic used in the historic downtown Austin area includes picking up intoxicated patrons and pretending to be their Uber or Lyft drivers. The patrons will then either be robbed or driven around Austin with the express intent of getting as much money, compensation, or items from the patron as possible."
I feel pretty helpless. I'm hoping this message gets out, to the public, at least let them know that there is activity like this happening. Anyone is really eligible to be a victim of this crime.
So people think that these deaths could be robberies gone wrong, where the men fought back, they were then killed, and then they were dumped in the river. Now, I find that very interesting, especially considering that a massive production facility for a date was busted operating in Texas that could have been used in these crimes, that could have easily been connected to these people. But Austin itself has a huge problem with drugging. All you have to do is go to Reddit or any of these forums online and look, and you can see that there are hundreds, thousands of people, men and women, talking about how they are out at bars in Austin, Texas, when suddenly they have been drugged. They don't remember what happens next. People have been robbed. And in fact, our own Connor has his own experience with something like that.
So when we were doing research about the Austin serial killer victims, I remembered a few years back I was also drugged in Houston. So one night, a few of my friends got together. We decided we wanted to go out to a bar We went to a bar in Midtown in Houston called Christian's Tailgate. I had ordered a beer and drank that. I'm a bigger guy. Usually if I was out drinking with friends, it would take me a pretty substantial amount of drinks to be drunk. So I had only ordered a beer, and then we got 2 mimosas. The last mimosa my friend got, she just didn't like the taste of it, and so she asked me if I wanted it. And so I drink it, and so I, at this point, am 3 drinks in, and not very high ABV drinks either, pretty normal. And I don't remember a thing from the time I drank that drink to the morning that I woke up. Woke up, didn't have my phone, couldn't figure out where I was. I was in my bed, but I walk out of my room and I go over to my friends. I'm like, hey, what happened? They started telling me that I was ballistic that night. They had to like carry me inside, but when we left the bar, apparently, I started acting really irate and was yelling at people, and even at one point banging my head against the window. We stopped at a red light and I jumped out of the car and just started running down the street in downtown Houston. I don't remember any of this. All the people that I was with just thought I was drunk. And they said I was acting crazy, but towards like the end of it, they like me running out of a car. I'm not a kind of person that would do that. They started noticing that this wasn't me just being drunk. There was something else going on. I ended up passing out in their back seat. My friends had to carry me inside, but I mean, like I've told everybody, it's seriously like someone took my memory from that time that I was drugged and just threw it away. I cannot recall at all what happened that night, from that last drink that I took to it was like 11 o'clock in the morning when I woke up. I have zero recollection of that time after only drinking 3 drinks, which I mean is scary. Because even thinking about it, that drink wasn't for me. That was a drink for one of the girls that I was with. If that's what that drug did to me as a bigger guy, there's no telling what it would have done to her, being like a 100-pound girl. I mean, more than double her size, and that was enough drugs to knock me out for good.
How did it make you feel after figuring out you were drugged? Did you feel violated?
I felt very violated. I mean, that's a very scary feeling, that knowing that there's people at the bars that are willing to do that, and some people are even accusing the bartenders of doing this because they walked from the bar, they ordered the drinks, walked from the bar to our table, which is about 10 feet away from the bar, and in the time frame of them ordering the drink to it getting to our table, someone had drugged that drink. So it makes you really weary about going out to bars like this because, I mean, it's very unsuspecting people that are doing this. I didn't look at anybody in the bar and think like, oh, this is a terrible person that's trying to take advantage of people. And, I mean, everybody's subject to be victimized.
So has it made you more careful going out?
It's made me way more careful. When I go out now, I really only drink bottled drinks just because I don't trust people making mixed drinks, and it's a little bit harder to spike a bottled drink than it is an open glass. It's made me really cautious about just being aware of anybody who's around me, and very cautious if I start seeing someone acting weird that usually wouldn't act like that after a couple drinks. I make sure that keep them handled because I know what it's like to be in that position.
And you called the authorities afterwards and they didn't do anything, right?
I called and they said that there's really nothing that they could do about it.
And at the end of the day, you would say in that state of mind, if somebody had come up to you and offered you a free Uber ride or taxi ride, or a police officer came up, you would probably be more inclined to trust them and go along with what they were saying?
Yeah, 100%. That was another part that I forgot. I actually ran up to some cops when I ran out of the car at that red light, and they didn't even do anything, which is terrifying. But I'm glad, because if they did do anything, I probably would have been arrested. I mean, I was doing things that I had never done before. Banging my head on glass. I mean, if I'm willing to do that, there's no telling what else I would have done. I mean, it's truly terrifying knowing that there's possibly someone out there using these procedures to lure someone, young men, to their death. I mean, it's truly scary.
So I personally have a lot of memories on this street. This bar, Empire Garage, I saw boys here back in 2016, and over here there used to be a bar. I could include some videos. I used to have a miniature rap music career here in Austin, but I used to play this place all the time through Brody's Fault is what it was called. It's very strange because I have so many memories on this street of this place, shows I've been to, shows I've played. My favorite bar before I got sober used to be over here called Barbarella's. But right here, this place is called the Sidebar. And something really disturbing is that there are lots and lots of reports of people online being drugged at this bar. I'm not alleging that anybody here is guilty of doing anything that is associated with this bar. And we are not saying anything criminal has happened or that the Sidebar has anything to do with anything criminal. But when you have hundreds of reports of people being drugged in the same place, that more than likely leads someone to believe that there may be an employee that works there that has their hand in something like this. And it's strange because apparently people have brought this up to the management of this bar, and they've kind of been a little defensive about not really being proactive about trying to stop these druggings and, you know, things that happen after these druggings from happening. But I don't know. One of the main theories that people have with this whole thing is that there either might be a ring of people at bars that are drugging people, then there are other people that swoop in and rob them when they're leaving the bar through a fake Uber. And there's also that theory that I talked about that we got the insider knowledge on, that there might be somebody at a bar drugging people, acting like they're being overserved, saying the police are coming, and then that police officer could be taking these men and murdering them. But this is like very odd because, yeah, I've been to this place 1,000 times, to Empire Garage. I've been all up and down the street, absolutely pissed drunk right at this corner. This is where a lot of the Ubers and Lyfts come at night, which is kind of weird too. I have so many videos and photos of me on my phone waiting for Ubers right here because 6th Street is the big entertainment district and it's one street over. This is 7th Street. But who knows, man? It's really strange. I think they should be looking into the security cameras here and trying to fix this if it really is happening at this rate. And who knows, there might be something evil that's happening here. We're not alleging anything. This is just purely speculation and from people's reports online. This place might hold the key to unraveling this whole thing if they were to get proper security cameras and be entirely honest about these events as they're happening. Tonight we're gonna go down to the river, try to search for some sort of a truth ourselves. I don't know if I'm ready. It's definitely a little spooky. This is like the urban legend that's been haunting Austin for years now. And it might be starting here. You don't know.
Hey everybody, it's Colin here. Thank you for watching today's video. Hello to all the new subscribers and hello to the rest of our beautiful, wonderful, spooky family. As you know, every single week here on the channel, we give away a free gift bag to one lucky viewer of the show. And this week, to enter the contest, all you have to do is like today's video, let's smash that like button, and comment, "I love Austin," in the comment section below. I'm gonna give y'all 10 seconds to do this now. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So go comment. You can comment multiple times. It helps the video so much. But anyways, let's get back to today's video. Thank you for listening to my little spiel. I love you guys so much and stay spooky. I mean, that's really disturbing and heartbreaking stuff. So there's these different elements. There's the thief angle. Are these men being drugged to be set up to be robbed and killed? There's this drugging angle. Are there people just drugging people for fun? What's going on there? I don't really know. It is happening. But when I was in Austin recently filming this episode, I know somebody whose friend is in the Austin Police Department, and what they told me was incredibly disturbing. They said that the reason that the Austin Police Department hasn't acknowledged the potential of a serial killer being active is because the Austin Police Department believes that it could be one of their own. She told me that this police department member said off the record, this is the thoughts from the Austin Police Department, this is why they aren't acknowledging this stuff, because they think it could be one of Austin's finest, a police officer, working with somebody who, or multiple people who are at these bars who drug the victims. Well, I guess I have to turn to this camera. Who drug the victims, and then after they're drugged, the policeman picks them up in his squad car. Now, I don't know if that's true. I'm not placing any blame on anybody, but it does make sense. Like, if you were in that state, I could see how you could be convinced they could drug you and then make you cause a scene and then say the police are coming and the police could come arrest you and take you away. I don't really know, but it was really interesting because I had heard that from her before I talked to Regan, who brought up that the police she believes are in on it. And before I talked to Mitchell, who also believes that the police maybe weren't in on it, but were involved in some of the cover-up. So all of these bodies, all these unexplained deaths, there is no serial killer according to the Austin Police Department. The only thing that we had left to do in this investigation was to go down to Lady Bird Lake ourselves. The following footage is disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised. We wanted answers. So we're starting our investigation in Austin here tonight under the I-35 bridge. There have been multiple bodies found here in the past. Weird timing. Well, with the Austin serial drownings or killings, whatever you want to refer to this string of crimes as, this is kind of an important apex because you've had multiple victims wash up on the right side of this bridge if you're looking towards Riverside, and you've also had a number of victims wash up over here to the left. So my thought is, right here we're in a rather large uninhabited parking lot that as the night goes on and on will get less and less crowded, so this would be a place where I could see somebody coming to dispose of something. But we're going to begin our investigation by walking over to the left side of this bridge into the woods, analyzing the scene of these crimes, and we're going to employ some investigative techniques. Now, throughout this video, we are going to be using some paranormal investigation as a guide, as a tool. We're not claiming that this is 100% legitimate. We're not claiming that we're talking to anybody in specific, no victims. We're just trying to get answers in a way that we know how to, and that's through these tools. So if you doubt this stuff, that's totally fine. If you believe in it, that's great. We're just doing what we can here. Let's get going, man.
Very eerie, very loud. Let's do this, man. All right. Look at this. It's kind of crazy, this big ass lake, no swimming's allowed. I know.
So it's really interesting because I lived here in Austin for 7 years, so I know the city like the back of my hand at this point. And right now, where we're at, right off of 35, we're like 5 minutes away from the busiest part of Austin right now, which is downtown Austin. We're like so close. But as you can see, we're on like a pitch black trail over here. And if somebody came down here, it's like 11:30 right now. If someone were to come down here at 2, 3, 4 in the morning, there would be nobody out here. But even look at right here. This is like a access point right here where you could roll up. You could even drive on this trail from that parking lot, to be honest. And you could dump a body or drag somebody, or you could bring someone down here, kill them, and push them in right here. People would be none the wiser. It's just eerie to think of like what secrets this water holds. Something strange and spooky about water at night, you know? Especially with the moon like that. Look at this too. So many access points to the water. You can see though, without our lights on, dude, look at how pitch black it is out here. Like the camera doesn't even really pick it up, but it's like, check it out. Here's where we are. You kill the light. It's completely shrouded in darkness in both directions. So if someone wanted to get away with murder, this is a very good place. Especially in a city like Austin, a town where everything is so compressed. I don't know if you guys who are watching this have ever been to Austin, but it's a very compact town. Like the downtown isn't very big, but it's filled with stuff. And there's a lot of greenery around here, but like specifically to do crimes downtown, like commit murders or get rid of evidence or bodies, I mean, this is like a perfect body of water and area to do it. Look at that. Let's kind of just go up here. See what's up here.
It's definitely creepy out here.
Right.
And just thinking about the time span of when all these crimes started to, I mean, the last body was found out here in April, and this is a very long spree of whatever's happening out here. We don't really know for sure, but whatever's happening is messed up.
I think we can go right down to the water. Right? Let's go sit over here. Something that blows my mind about walking down here is that we're in a city right now of millions of people. Like a mile from here is like the heart of the city, and there's literally nobody down here on this entire trail. We've seen maybe one person in 30 minutes.
too.
Yeah. So people are here from out of town and like it's a busy time.
All right. I have this light that's off. Feels Spirit console keeps crashing.
Harold, Arnold, Aaron. So that was weird. That guy just walked by. That guy just walked by staring at us. That guy just walked down the path staring at us. And he was on the phone, walking in the pitch black down here. Kind of odd.
Maybe it's because we're just strange men holding cameras at each other in the middle of the night.
I don't know, man. With this shit, it's fucking weird. Why is someone walking around here in the pitch black making a phone call at midnight?
No lights.
Yeah, complete pitch black.
There's another one.
Keep rolling. Cuts. What the f was that? It's peculiar.
You think like all this stuff's happening,
right?
Maybe one
Dad. King Dad. So, I'm going to explain these devices to people online. So we have the Envoy right here. This is a device that measures EMF fluctuations in the environment, puts it through an algorithm, gives you a word. There's, I believe, 70,000+ words on this database. Chapters. Spirit Talker is the same technology. And then the Spirit Box, this is a tool that's been used for the longest time. Doctor. Cuts, King, Doctor. This thing scans through radio frequencies. The theory is that spirits or energies are able to speak and we can only hear them through these different frequencies that our ears can't pick up on. So, to whoever's out here, my name's Colin Brown. I'm feeling tired. Sounds like being drugged.
Is that how you felt the night you went missing?
To whoever's here, we're looking to speak to victims who may have drowned in the body of water behind us. So if you can hear our voice, please try to come and make contact with us. Anybody who lost their lives in Town Lake, Lady Bird Johnson. All right, I'm gonna turn on the Spirit Box. To whoever's here right now, can you please identify yourself by telling us your name? Just say it out loud. TMP. Need help. Pissing. What the fuck? PPTMP pissing. Need help. Do you remember your name, whoever we're speaking with? Oh, God. Roach on my back.
My name is Michael.
Oh, I just got chills, actually.
Is there a Michael on the roof?
Dude. I mean, how weird is this? Cut, dude. It said cut twice. Cuts on here and cut. And it's very strange because it said, like, need help, dude. It sounds like a young man. Like, that's really strange, actually. Fatal cut, dude. Fatal cut lingerie. All right. Could you tell us what your name is, please? Say it out loud. Tree. I heard pee-pee too, which is weird. Can you please tell us your name? I was one of them. I was one of them. I was one of them. Rye FM? That's weird because we're listening to FM right now. What's your name? Bring that over. Maybe you aren't the spirit of one of the victims. Were you here and did you see how those guys ended up in the lake? Industry of people. Weapon, I think. Died. I just asked. Okay, so does that mean that you died in the lake? Can you say yes? Yes. Yes, you died in this body of water right here? You drowned? Yes, I did. Did you hear that? Yes, I did. Dude, what the f***, man? Okay, we've gotten some really strange shit already, and there's stuff with some of the victims having contusions on them.
Do you remember anything from that night?
I've heard RV twice. Blake. Another man's name. Man. Identity. MS. Taxi, dude. I just heard taxi. Was one of the last things you remember being in a taxi cab or an Uber? Corporation. Dylan. Did you get into a taxi cab the night that you ended up down here?
Are all these drownings connected?
Under the bridge. Of course they are. Multiple men who've been found here were murdered by the same person or people. Stay right here. All right, can you tell us? Our devices have said cut and cuts. On the night that you were assaulted, like you said, did somebody cut you with something? GHZ. All right, now that's very strange. The date drug is GHB. It's kind of odd, isn't it?
Yeah.
Were you trying to say GHB like somebody spiked your drink when you were out drinking? Eyed. Like they eyed you at the bar? Is that what you're saying? Somebody was targeting you? They saw me, I heard. For murder. 54-year-old. Get out of here. So we're trying to get some clarity. People think that whoever's here, the victims that ended up here, were at a bar drinking, they were drugged, and then either somebody murdered them for fun or they were robbed and then your body was brought here. Is any of that true? What part of that is true? Forest marker. Were you drugged at the bar that you were at? Did you drink a drink and it made you feel weird? Clean up.
Remember that theory that it might be robbers and it goes wrong, and that's their like cleanup that they have to do, just dump the body and get away.
Yep. Whoever's body was dumped here.
By the way, did you see that guy with the cell phone walk by again in the pitch black?
Were you robbed before you died? Did someone steal your stuff? Yes. What did they steal from you? Credit? Pothead. Global. Do these people murder people in other cities too? No. Like he asked before, are the murders out here connected to each other? Or are people just making this up? One on here too. One what? Kill. One what? Answer. Murder. So, they were murdered, or unfortunately you were murdered. I'm listening. Dude, this is like really intelligent. Who killed you? Was it a man or a woman? Clearer, please. Was it a man or a woman? Dude. Was it a man or a woman? Yo, this is crazy, actually. Okay, so please, I'm begging you, try to use all of your energy and say out loud the word man or woman, or both, if there were both people involved. Were the police involved? Was there a police officer that was with you that night?
Is there anything we can do to figure out who's doing this?
Actually,
watch for him. Like, what do you watch for him?
attachment.
What did they look like, the person who abducted you? What was the color of their skin? Can you tell us that? Manager.
Under a bar. Was bar staff involved? Was the staff at a bar or a restaurant involved?
Planning.
The staff is involved in planning these murders.
Cutting.
Cutting, dude. So we've gotten on all these different devices. Cuts, cutting. Yeah.
Why are they doing it?
So, can you say out loud, was this for money, or is this because this person likes to murder people?
Estimated. This size.
His ass.
5 years.
Joey.
Is there a connection to the police?
Were you taken out of a bar or picked up that evening by a police officer? Do you remember being in a police car? We're gonna walk to another part of the water. Do you have any final words before we move on? Thank you to who we were speaking with.
Live cam.
CCTVs. CCTVs. Or they could want a camera down here too.
Or the bar staff's watching the cameras, looking for something.
I'm very lonely here. Bar staff trimming out segments, you mean? Writing over stuff?
Or they have someone watching cameras in the back, finding their prey for the night.
Alright, let's keep walking. Alright, so right now we're walking on the other side of the trail. Additionally, more bodies have been found over here, but this is a more, I think, traveled side of the path. And we're getting closer and closer to Rainy Street itself, where a number of these victims have gone missing. This side is much more developed though, you know?
Yeah, it's got fences all along the trail.
But that's interesting, you know, you see a lot in this case, people talking about, oh, APD or Austin should build fences here to prevent people from falling. But I mean, these fences have been here for a while.
Yeah.
And these bodies keep popping up here. But once again, it's just strange that there's nobody fucking out here, man.
Well, I mean, that's even the thing though, is water's not still. Water flows, whether or not it's going from a river or whatever. So they might not be falling in, allegedly, over here. They could be getting dumped somewhere else, and this is where just all the bodies are ending up.
Right. Upriver even. But it's not even a river, technically. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, they said they're doing lighting improvements
because honestly, this is a path in an area where a serial killer could potentially be stalking, and the city of Austin has done nothing. I mean, without our flashlights here, it's pitch black. And on top of that,
you have the glow from the buildings next to you, but I mean, that's nothing.
And then like on top of that, there are no trail cameras or anything.
Oh, there's a guy right here. I'd say that's pretty easily accessible.
Yeah. Beautiful tree. All right, so we're standing right now. You can see the water is right behind us. This is a part, once again, of the Lady Bird Lake where multiple bodies have been found right here along this shoreline. So if there's anybody here in this area who can hear our voice, whether you were murdered, your body was dumped here, or you were already here and you saw what happened, we're trying to figure out what happened to those young men who have drowned supposedly in the lake. They said cards, controversial, and relative. Can you tell us your name, whoever we're speaking with? Do you remember your name?
One person. 60. Saw one.
Was the person that you saw enter the water already dead when they were put in there?
Do you remember what happened that night?
Hi. Was somebody beaten with a pipe around here? They were beaten on the side with a pipe and their ribs broke? None of this is making sense. Is somebody killing these people, these young men who are washing up here?
Absolutely.
Are they killing them to rob them or just because they like to murder people? I like to talk. Kuwait? Iraqi Kuwait? Are you talking about a man who looked Middle Eastern that drowned in the lake? Or are the people that are abducting and killing these people, do they appear to be from Iraq or Kuwait? So are these young men being robbed before they're killed, or are they just being killed?
Carpet.
It said something about textiles earlier too. That's weird. Can you tell us anything about how these men died? What happened? You kept saying cut and cuts. Were they like stabbed? Huh? With a knife. So they were stabbed or cut before they were killed? Crap.
It's a little strange. Been sure.
One shoe. Where the f did that come from? Where's the other shoe? Where's the owner? We're just trying to figure out if anybody can hear us, if these men were actually murdered, or if these really are just accidents. Racial? Dude, it's just eerie coming down here and just thinking about this shit that happens. Even if they are all accidents, it's so tragic. And like, there's literally like nobody here.
There's no way that it's accidents.
I know.
10 people in 20 months?
Well, yeah, I don't think it's accidents.
It's not easy to fall in here.
And a lot of these things stopped when COVID happened. Like, there were no murders when all the bars and stuff were shut down, so the guy couldn't find victims, or guys, or people, or women, whoever's killing these men. Let's walk a tiny bit up and then we can go. Look at that.
I just like to talk.
Drowning risk. It's a little ominous, isn't it? I wonder why they put this gate up and everything. Looks like they're building something. It's so strange. And it's really strange that it's not me. I just like to talk. It's really strange that these men are coming from Rainy in these areas where they're like very populated, and no one seems to see these men walking down here to the river to stumble in by themselves.
But like, how would you even end up down here?
You wouldn't. I've been out here in Austin drinking a million times before I got sober, and you know, I mean, I'm just speaking for myself, but it's a long walk down here too, above all. And just look at that. I mean, are you seriously gonna walk down here by yourself and go crawling through this shit to hop in the lake? Dude. So,
Anybody.
solved. Anybody solved? Like, has anybody solved these? No, nobody has solved any of this stuff. That's why we're trying to come ask you for answers. So these victims, were they assaulted before they were thrown into the lake? Yes, inside. Did you hear that scream?
Yeah.
Ahead. So I just gotta ask, you want us to help solve this, where should we look to try and see what happened? Girl. So a woman was involved in the abduction and murder? Couple. That's a strange angle. Danger. Where should we go look for this person? Where do they work? Here? Is there a specific place we can try to find who this person is that's targeting people? You know that. Is there anything else you want to say to us before we leave? That any information you have that could help us in this investigation, please. River. Thanks. Shit. I don't know if you guys can see on camera, but I am dripping with sweat right now. It's so hot out, and we're being assaulted by bugs. So we're gonna go back to the car. But to whoever we've been speaking with, I want to sincerely say thank you. I hope that you found peace in some way, and hopefully our efforts to help solve what happened to everybody can bring some peace in this situation. So thank you for speaking with us. All right.
So at the end of the day, I believe that there is something going on here. I believe that there's a murderer on the loose, or murderers that have been so good at doing what they do that they've been able to get away with it for this long. I mean, the water washes off DNA evidence to a certain degree. I don't know if the police are bumbling the work, what's going on, if they're being lazy, but you can't have all these injuries on people that aren't even noted. And the mask thing with Regan, and the police getting the wrong date with Martin, it's just all really bizarre and disturbing. But what can I say? I'm just an internet sleuth who, according to the Austin Police Department, knows nothing about what I'm talking about. It's not like I was there for one of these events and saw all of this unfold. Let me know your thoughts in the comments section below. Still, to this day, there's no swimming allowed in Lady Bird Lake. But until something is done about this, I'm sure that there will be another body.